think it's separate from Facebook. There we go.
Black African power. What's good? What's happening? A well-organized lie defeats a disorganized truth every time. Woo-hoo-wee. Hey, man, y'all already know what it is, fam. What's good, man? I'm in Raw Squad up, man. Look, we got a powerful show tonight, man. We're going to get right into this thing as not to waste no time, man. So come on, Wuja, man. You want to go ahead and start off? But first, let me introduce Brother Nahisi. What's good, bro? Out of there. Sister Naya. Okay, are you moving slow? What's good, bro?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, all right, man. Wake up, man. Wake up. Hey, Asah Hotep, what's good, man? Black African Power. I'm in Raw Squad up.
Peace and blessings. What's good, fam?
Hey, man, you know, man, we ready to get it in. Brother Wuja, what's good, man? Black African Power. I'm Raw Squad up.
All right, I'm Raw Squad up. All right, we're going to get it in tonight, have a nice open discussion, and I'm just ready for it.
Okay, hey, man, and hold the whole goddamn thing together. I said the whole goddamn thing together. Sister Naya, voice is on fire. I'm a Raw Squad up. What's good?
Hey, Brother what's good?
Hey, I just want to let you know, Sister Naya, there will be no cussing tonight in the building, okay? No cussing. Hey, Wuja, what's up, man? Man, go ahead, man, and break us in, man. What's the topic? And let's get it in, man. It's a real good scientific topic, and we're gonna just really get the understanding of what the scientists are talking about when they make certain statements. You know what I mean? To break down the confusion. So go ahead, man, and let's crank it right up.
All right, jump right into it. Before I jump into it, first, just in case people who didn't see the link on Facebook or there's an issue with it, if any of y'all can post the link from the YouTube link into the groups or whatnot. All right, just to make sure, you know, as a little backup, whatever the case is. So, today's topic, you know, we've recently been doing open discussions, and so I think we started Thursday, and we've had one just about every other day since. And so today is Tuesday, so we're having our open discussion Tuesday, and we've been choosing different topics that people bring up on the Facebook platform, and we just discuss it, and we have people chime in and come on in. So we're gonna do the same thing tonight. So this is like a continuation. Excuse me. So tonight the topic is pretty brief, but I want to explain something because it seems to be causing a lot of confusion with some individuals. And so there's two statements on the screen. The first statement is all humans are fundamentally African. The next statement is all humans are not African. And so the question is, are these two statements contradicting each other? All right. And it appears to be contradictory, and this is what's causing confusion. All right. So so this is what we're going to discuss. And let me get my screen over here. All right. So this first statement that you see, all humans are fundamentally African. What does this statement mean? This is the most simplest way that I can put it. It simply means that all humans that are living today are of the subspecies called Homo sapiens sapiens. And Homo sapiens sapiens is of the species called Homo sapiens, which is of the genus Homo. All right, so again, you have Homo sapiens sapiens that are of Homo sapiens, which are of Homo. And you'll see how these words are being reduced on each step. The word Homo in the classification of these labels stands for human. So when you hear geneticists or biologists speak about humans, they're not always talking about Homo sapiens sapiens. And we have to, that's important to understand that. And sometimes that could cause confusion in conversations as well. Because when people say human, you have to then be more specific, or what type of human or what species of human. Because as I listed here, we have Homo sapiens, we have Homo erectus, Homo floresiensis, Homo habilis, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo naledi, Homo neanderthalensis, Neanderthalensis. All right, these words can get a little tricky for me. All of these are humans. So, and you have archaic humans. So when people speak about archaic human, most of the time they're talking about these particular humans that are no longer existing. So all living human beings today are of the subspecies Homo sapiens sapien. Now, all Homo sapiens sapiens have their origin in Africa. So this is what this statement means. All humans are fundamentally African. This is why the word fundamentally is bold and in red, because fundamentally is speaking about humanity's origin. All right, their essence, the core, the genesis of Homo sapiens sapiens is in Africa. All right, it's just that simple. I think we all can agree with that. The science agrees with that, that humanity springs forth out of Africa. All right. And if you remember, just to kind of explain and break down the Homo going to Homo sapiens and then Homo sapiens sapiens, is these are considered taxonomic labels, and we have a hierarchy of a system. So we start off with life, then domain, and work your way down to kingdom, all the way down to where we get to genus. And so Homo is our genus. And the word Homo, like I said, is what is interchanged with the word human in the scientific disciplines. So when they say human, they're talking about Homo, not necessarily modern human of today. That's why we have to specifically point out that we're talking about anatomically modern human beings. AMH. Sometimes you'll see it abbreviated. Okay? And when they do that, they're making a distinction. So out of the genus of Homo, we have the species of Homo sapiens. And then we have a subspecies, Homo sapiens sapiens. And all living human beings today are Homo sapiens sapiens. All right? And this is what is being said. All Homo sapiens sapiens have their genesis as such in Africa. This means that all living humans today are Homo sapiens sapiens and can trace ultimately back to the continent of Africa. This is what is meant by the statement, all humans are fundamentally African. This is a broader context. And the word fundamentally implies the following: originally, chiefly, essentially, principally, and primarily, etc. These are common synonyms for the word fundamentally, and you'll hear people interchange those words when they're speaking about this in this context. So now, the next statement, all humans are not African. Now, at the first look, it may seem to contradict everything I just said, but it doesn't, and here's why. So what does the statement mean? So what is or is not African in this context depends on the criteria that's used. All right. So now, among the subspecies of Homo sapiens sapiens, there's been mutations that have been occurring throughout time. Some of these mutations have occurred while still on the continent of Africa, and some of the mutations have occurred while outside of the continent of Africa. This is important when we try to anchor genetics to geographical locations. This can be done by way of what's called haplogroups, which are codes for these mutations, and since they occur in specific geographical locations and produce genetic populations, we can use this information to place these populations in various locations. So for example, haplogroup N3 is not African because it did not occur on the continent, this particular mutation. And by this method, we can say who is African and who is not African. And the key word to include here that I don't have on the screen is the word lineage. So your lineage depends on your maternal or paternal line. And if you are a member of a certain geographical genetic population that has a certain mutation that took place outside of Africa, then your lineage is not African. But if you are a member of a genetic population whose mutation took place on the continent of Africa, then you are African. All right. And this is explained further by different geneticists. But I want to show a map, an example of what I'm speaking about. I don't know if you all can see my cursor. Can y'all see my cursor? Are you all able to see my cursor?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
You sharing the screen?
Yeah, I'm sharing it.
All right.
But that wasn't my question. I'm saying, okay, all right. So if you could see my cursor on the bottom right, you will see haplogroups along the top. If you can see my cursor in this B, you'll see where you see the word African in kind of a light bluish color, East Asian in a red color, Euro-Indian in a yellow color, Asian in a brown, and American in green. And we're able to do this and make these distinctions because what's the standard or criteria that's being applied is lineages. And these lineages are based on membership within a haplogroup. So we have haplogroups that are known to have occurred on the continent of Africa, and therefore in the light blue we'll see L0, L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, and these groups and mutations occurred on the continent of Africa, therefore thus these are Africans, so you would be considered African. The other groups occurred outside of Africa, so everywhere else would be considered not African. So it's based on this criteria of lineage of how we can say, or why we can say, what's African and what's not African. All right. And even over here on the left hand side, you'll see a further breakdown where you have different names given to populations. All right, where you have African populations versus non-African populations. And this is based on what I just said. All right. So here is a map of mitochondria lineages. All right, this is the maternal mitochondria DNA and the haplogroups, the major nodes of the haplogroups. Now, mind you, each of these haplogroups that you see, like L2, L3, N, etc., they have various different subgroups. Okay, so these are your major nodes of the groups. And so you can see L1, L0, L1, L2, L3, L4 is not shown, but L4 is also inside of Africa. So anyone with a maternal lineage that falls in these groups, then your maternal lineage is therefore African. If it falls anywhere outside of here, then it is not African. All right. And the next one is the paternal haplogroups from your the Y DNA. And as you can see, A, B, E, and the sub of E3A and E3A, E3A and E3A, etc., are in the continent of Africa. Therefore, your paternal lineage, if you're a member of these particular haplogroups, then your paternal lineage can be said to be African versus the ones that are not African. So if your paternal DNA goes back to, let's say, R1, then your paternal lineage is not African. Now, to emphasize this, there's a geneticist people should be familiar with, Dr. Rick Kittles. He is one of the co-founders of AfricanAncestry.com. And in most of his lectures, he displays his genetic ancestry test results. And he says that he is 80% African, which means that he shares 80% of his DNA is shared with Africans and 20% other. But even that being said, he will also explain that his paternal lineage is not African. And that may confuse people, but then he explains why, and it's exactly what I'm going over tonight. He's 80%. He has 80% DNA shared with African or Africa, but yet his paternal Y DNA goes back to a place in Germany. So his paternal line is not African. His maternal line is African, and his autosomal or admixture composition is 80% African. So these are three different results, or three different pieces of information that is combined when people are talking about their genetic ancestry. And we have to understand these differences. Okay, so that's what makes it not African. Now, anybody that sees Rick Kittles, no one's going to ever say that the brother is not African, or he's not an African American, and whatever the case is. But his paternal line is not African. So this is how specific the conversations with genetics can become, and we can't brush it off and microwave it or be very vague. Once we start to engage in conversations about genetics and ancestry and genomic issues, we have to start understanding that we have to start speaking the lingo, the jargon, the nomenclature, all right? And we have to be specific. So, again, going back, all humans are fundamentally African. So by now, everyone should understand what that means. All it simply means is that all of humanity has its origins in Africa. Easy, right? All human beings have their origins in Africa. All living human beings today have their origins in Africa. It's just that simple. That's all it means. Second statement, all humans are not African. This statement is based on lineages, your paternal or maternal lineage. Where did these arise? Did they arise inside of the continent of Africa? Therefore, you're African, or these lineages, specific lineages, are African, or did it occur or arise outside of Africa? Therefore, it will be not African. So as you can see, these statements are not pitted against each other, and they're both statements are true, and they're not contradicting each other once you understand the context in which both statements are made and the standards that are applied to each one. Okay, so the answer is no. And I'm going to give an example that I gave on Facebook. If the statements are made on their own as standalone, they would appear contradictory. And I already pointed that out. So these statements were not made alone, but rather with context that explains clearly what is meant and why. So here's an example of the importance of context. Okay, so if I made a statement, number one, O.J. Simpson was found not guilty. And then I made a separate statement saying O.J. Simpson was found guilty. Somebody would look at me and say, well, wait a minute, it can't be both. Which one is it? You're contradicting each other. It can't be both. So standing alone, these two statements are contradictory. So thus, both statements must be qualified by context. So if I were to explain myself, I would say statement one is based on the criteria of the criminal charges. He was found not guilty. Everyone's familiar with the O.J. Simpson trial. Statement two is based on the criteria of the civil charges. He was found guilty in civil. So without that extra piece of information, what we call context, then the statements will appear to be contradictory. Okay? So when we go back to these two statements, remember, context matters. And in the context of both these statements, they're both true. And that's it. So that's all I had to I wanted to go over and make clear. And this is for, to clear up the confusion that this statement may have caused, and people are taking it as that. So I'll end right there and open the floor. So if any of you all have anything, comments or questions for me, then go for it.
Okay. As I've stated in the Facebook post, that there seems to be a problem with people understanding, social demarcations versus geographic demarcations versus biological demarcation. And in the case of geographical and social demarcations, they are all the brainchild of human beings. They do not occur naturally in the world. So even the definition of what the borders of Africa, these are political borders. These have nothing to do with any kind of real demarcation zones. And it just depends on who you talk to as to where Africa begins and where it ends. For example, if we take Dr. Wesley Muhammad's idea of Arabia, then Africa extends all the way into the Middle East on the edge of Mesopotamia or ancient Mesopotamia. So what does that do if the criterion is that in determining who is African or not? And then if we look at this like geographically, there really is, I mean, when you look at the whole continent, like even the concept of a continent is not natural. It's political, and it's a European invention, which is why they give you the definition of a continent is a large landmass surrounded by water on all sides, but then tell you that Europe is a continent, when Europe is just Asia. Now we can argue that Africa is just southwest Asia, or that Asia is just northeast Africa, because you could just walk in any direction, you know, of the so-called European or Asian continent. You could just walk. There's nothing blocking you from there. That means they're connected. So by what criteria are we calling something African? And I'm only pointing this out to show and demonstrate that when you start trying to combine biological categorizations with social categorizations, you're always going to have imprecise results. That when you really try to boil it down to its main essence, it's the categorization schema falls or fails. And this is fundamentally what we have here with, you know, what is African or not. But, you know, so we got to understand all of these is just generalities, you know, convenience, so that we can have a conversation about human origins and human migrations, you know, over time. And so, you know, because we have to determine, like, how do we separate a species? Like, this is still being debated in biology. Like, what constitutes a species, the separation of a species?
Yes. And
what really makes Homo sapiens different from Homo Neanderthals? Why can't Homo Neanderthals just be Homo sapiens sapiens with big foreheads? You know, like, you know, so people need to understand these things before they start, you know, going hard and telling people all kinds of crazy stuff about stuff that isn't concrete. And if you read the literature, you know, this is mentioned. And so, you know, but usually you would have to go into the deeper literature for this. The introductory, see, this is where people stop. They read the introductory stuff and think they got it, not understanding that the introductory stuff is a convenient truth. To get the real stuff, you have to go into the grad school stuff in the journals, where the real issues are being discussed. And so they give you a little bit of information, some generalities, so that you can get some grasp of the field. But then once you start getting into the field, you start to see where a lot of these things which were presented as concrete in the introductory courses are not as so in the grad courses. So I just wanted to, you know, point that out.
Well, that's
remember that Diop also argued that Arabia and Mesopotamia is just Northeast Africa based on fauna, based on climatology and things of that nature. So, you know, if the Africans, Homo sapiens, met the Neanderthals in that area, they would still be Africans if we're going by that criteria. So, you know, where do we put the demarcation and why? And is it justifiable outside because we said so?
Right, and I think that's important, and I've been recommending people to, at the very least, watch some of the lectures done by Dr. Rick Kittles, and there's many others out there, where he actually mentions pretty much everything you just mentioned, and the things that I mentioned earlier, and so people have to understand the importance of the specifics or specificity of these kinds of disciplines and conversations as well. We can't just gloss things over, which we tend to do, coming from a layman's perspective, when these people they have specialized words and terms, for this kinds of things. This goes for any scientific discipline. So what people need to understand is what's considered a genetic population. And a genetic population is a population of people who share certain common traits and are able to interbreed. That's the broader sense, but on a more micro level, you have to share the common mutation. And so you have haplotypes, and in conjunction with this population, they will call them haplogroups. So now it becomes a genetic population or a group. And so the frequencies, where the highest frequencies are located based on geography, is where you can start anchoring genetics to a physical location on the planet. And so this is where you get genomic geography. I forgot the exact term that Dr. Kittles used, but let's say like I showed, L0, the highest frequency of that particular gene or group, is inside of today what we call Africa. Now let's say we just change the name from Africa to something else. It still wouldn't change the science or where it is. It's just that the name of this geographical location will change and stuff. So like you were saying, the criteria for that can change, like according to Diop, Mesopotamia and whatever else is part of Northeast Africa. But let's say what was it? I think it was one of the L's that came out of Africa. That's where it ended up. But they'll still say it's out of not African by some people's standards, and some people, if Diop was to say it, he would say that's Northeast Africa. So that can shift, but the science is still there. And so, the demarcation with the geographical terms, these are things that the consensus came up with. Why is Africa Africa? Where does it stop? Where, the borders and things like that. But the science is sound. The science is there. So genetic populations is there. It's just that in our conversations, to anchor, and this is another way it was explained. You have to address the who, and you have to address the where. The who would be Homo sapiens sapiens, as an example. The who would be Homo sapiens sapien. The where would be Africa, what we call Africa today, because Homo sapiens sapiens have its genesis in Africa. So that's why that's how the conversation goes. You have the who and the where. So people who are, so the genetic population of haplogroup N3, that's the who, because you're talking about a population of people. The where is where does N3 occur on the planet, and then whatever the consensus is for that name of that geographical location, then that's where you come up with the where. And that is in somewhere in Scandinavia, I believe, out up there in the Netherlands, I believe, somewhere. So anyway, that's how that's done. So hopefully people can understand. And my thing, I just want to make sure people don't understand that that's not a contradictory statement when we say fundamentally African. And I kind of joked and gave the example that ketchup is fundamentally tomatoes. Like nobody would have a problem with me saying that. Because it's essentially tomatoes. It's made of tomatoes. You got
the same ingredients.
Yeah. So you got You got you know, they got the spices. You got Heinz 51 flavors or whatever, but it's fundamentally tomatoes.
Yeah, but different things occur in tomatoes and ketchup. Some different things happen. So let me jump in real fast. I think basically, you know, I like to talk fast and have fun, right? Truth is, talking fast, having fun, little cuss word here, little cuss word there, right? It kind of muddies the water a little bit because the said subject matter, right, is so serious, right, that at times you really have to slow down because we can get mixed up. Brother Saul speaks about geographical regions, social constructs, biology, right? These are things that are constantly mixed and matched in this conversation on Facebook Scholar. I call it Facebook Scholars, right? Think memes, throw a meme in there, and the whole thing is confused, right? Take a scientific article and start to read it, then the scientists themselves interchange words. And so if you're not really up on the material and really understand it completely, things can get all out of wax, all out of confused. It happens all the time when we talk about theories, right? To this day, you will have people that you didn't beat up on a theory 5 years later still saying the exact same thing. And so the subject matter is very crucial. So like Brother Wuja talked about the different humans that resided on planet Earth. Most people don't even get that. We're so arrogant that we think we're the only humans that lived on Earth. And we're so arrogant, right, that we like to separate ourselves from the animal kingdom, okay? Our way of thinking that we're the only thing that is important on Earth and in the whole cosmos, right, will cause the conversation to get muddied again. You know, like, how dare you say that this particular organism extended from me? How dare you say that? Throwing a social construct with racism, white supremacy, we're even more confused. And so it's sometimes you got to slow it down and actually write stuff down. So when scientists use the word human, when you're reading certain articles, you got to really take your time and see, well, what humans are they talking about? Are they talking about archaic human? Well, what is archaic human? Are they talking about AMH? What is AMH? Anatomically modern human. Well, who are we? We are AMH. Are we archaic humans? No. Is Neanderthal archaic humans? Yes. Is Homo erectus archaic? Yes. How about Homo habiligensis? Yes. Well, what's the difference? What's the difference between Homo habiligensis and, say, Homo neanderthal? Well, Homo neanderthal and quote unquote AMH shared a common ancestor, or should I say Homo adultus. Homo adultus. So that Homo adultus and Homo neanderthal share common ancestor because Homo adultus is what? It's an archaic human. You find them in Ethiopia. So they the ones that shared that. So the question that Wuja said, he said, well, people make mistakes. Is Neanderthal closer? Right? No, is chimpanzee more closer to Homo sapiens sapien?
Oh, let me ask you the question then, so you could break it down. And so this is another confusing thing, and rightfully so on the surface.
You break my chain of thought. I was going to get right to it.
I was going to ask you the question. Go ahead, because you go ahead.
I just pause for a minute because I'm getting old, and I thought I was going to say a cuss word, and as soon as I thought I was going to say a cuss word, I just stopped. So whenever I stop from now on, people listening, you know, I'm thinking I might say a cuss word, so I'm just going to stop.
Oh, but let me ask you a question, which will cause you to go ahead and break it down.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Homo sapiens sapiens and Homo neanderthals share 99.7% DNA.
Yep.
But you will hear people that will say that today's humans only share 2 to 4% or so Neanderthal DNA. And they'll use that to say, well, don't scientists also say we share 98% with chimpanzees? So are we closer related to chimpanzee than we are with Neanderthals? So how would you explain that and break that down?
Well, there's a chart that says we share about don't quote me this, about 35% DNA with chickens. See what I'm saying? What they're saying is that the only reason two living organisms can share 99.7 DNA because they share in a common ancestor. I'm gonna say it again. The only reason two living organisms, the only explanation that they have so far, right? And this is why evolution reigns supreme, because you would have to explain why is it that Neanderthal and humans and Homo sapiens share that much DNA, right? That percentage, that 3% is like an ocean, though. I want y'all to know that and understand that. It's still large, right? But the reason they share this is because they have a common ancestor. They come out the same spot. And coming out the same spot, they inherited the daggone DNA. So, but watch this. And so why is it that 3% or 4%, you can find that still in humans? Because now we're talking about mixing. And now we're talking about what's left over. You know, what is decided to be used? You know what I'm saying? That 4% is left. So what does that 4% deal with? So what was it? They was dealing with the skin. You know, Neanderthals had a tougher skin. If you go to Denisovans, right, it was certain things that humans needed, and so that mutation was selected. That particular gene was selected, thus it survives, right? And so the Denisovans could deal with high altitudes, okay? And so people living in higher mountain regions needed to be able to deal with high altitudes. And so that's a particular gene that deals with that. So humans, right, inherited that gene. Remember, genes are selected based off the environment. So based off the environment, the percentages needed for Homo sapiens to survive in the colder regions, because remember, Homo Neanderthal, right, it actually is formed in Europe. It's built for the cold. And so those things that help them survive in the cold, humans, right, obviously the human trace that was left over. So you got Neanderthal mixing with Homo sapiens sapiens. Obviously, Neanderthal is best fit for the cold, right? Obviously, coming out of Africa, you ain't built for the cold like that. And so those genes are selected over time. Those babies, Neanderthal and humans have babies, okay? Some die out, some survive. Those that have more of the gene to help the skin thick and help the skin pale a little bit, they're going to survive longer than those who are not. So at the end of the day, you end up with 3 to 4% of DNA over time, because those are the genes that has been selected. That is totally different from sharing 99.7% DNA. But you got to slow it down, and the conversation is serious. And I suggest you do your own reading on that so you can get it straight in your mind. You can't just sit up here and listen. You got to actually participate in the study. That's like when they talk about linguistic argument. That's why we have such a problem with the linguistic argument, because people are just listening to other people instead of actually getting a book, right, text, and kind of read it to kind of get it a little bit. You know, go on YouTube and look for the serious information, not the craziness, the serious information on linguistics. Same thing with genetics. Get the serious information, right, so you can kind of understand what the hell is going on, because you will stay in confusions and you will have a total crazy argument. So did I explain it good enough for you, Wuja?
Yeah, just a couple of things though. The reason why they share is not necessarily because of the XY chromosome. It has to do with the
Sister Naya, your audio went out.
Yeah, all right, hold on. Let me finish this off. I want to finish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to finish though, Naya. Hold on, let me just close this out real quick.
Oh, okay.
Right. Real quick, and then you can And so when we deal with mitochondrial DNA, because that's what this whole conversation is really boiling down to. 1 second. It says, let's deal with this. Because mitochondrial DNA, okay, what is mitochondrial DNA? All right, it's the power cell. It breaks down food into energy so that cells can eat, and it's passed on from mother to mother. the majority of it, right? And so we're saying this because mitochondrial DNA is almost exclusively, right, passed from mother to offsprings without recombination. So we got to talk about recombination for a second. What's recombination? Recombination, genetic recombination is the production of offspring with combinations of traits that differ from those found in earlier in either parent. I'm going to say this again. Genetic recombination is the production of offspring with combinations of traits that differ from those found in either parent. Y'all got that? Okay. So let's finish this again. It's almost exclusively passed from mother to offspring without recombination. So we're talking about this now, right? So y'all go look up paternal mitochondrial DNA transmission. Now watch this. Most mitochondria.
I just want to say, you mean maternal?
In every living. You said what?
No, I was just saying. You mean maternal? But go ahead.
Yeah, no, paternal. It says see the exception. The exception at paternal.
Paternal would be the Y DNA. You talking about MT? Mitochondria is
yes.
maternal.
That's what I said. Paternal mitochondria. Didn't I say that?
No, just go ahead and continue. I was saying maternal is. But go ahead. Maternal is mother to daughter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I ain't said. I said see the exception at paternal mitochondrial DNA transmission. PATERNAL. Mitochondrial transmission. Okay, most mitochondria in every living person differs only by mutations that have occurred over generations in the germ cell mitochondrial DNA since the conception of the original mitochondria Eve. All right? So we got to kind of like get the real understanding of what's going on here, right? So it's not that complicated, right? I'm gonna add one more piece to this real quick. Let's see. All of us carry our mother's DNA signature. Watch this. Within our mitochondria. So it houses markers only from our mother's lineage. It says my maternal markers, right, turned out to be, and I'm talking about, hold on. Let me get this woman's name real quick. Hold on. Pseudodol. Okay, I'm reading from this article on CNN. All right, so they DNA tested her, but watch this. And this is going to make everybody kind of understand this real fast. She explained that all of us carry our mother's mitochondrial DNA signature within a mitochondrial DNA. It say it houses markers only from our mother's lineage. Watch this. My maternal marker turned out to be H, which can be traced to a woman living in Dordogne region of France 20,000 years ago. Watch this. But this isn't reserved for my British mother and me. 47% of all Europeans are descended from the Haplogroup, which itself, watch this, which itself is an offshoot of humans who migrated out of Africa and into Europe. Did y'all get that statement? I'm gonna read the statement one more time. Right? She says her maternal marker turned out to be H, which can be traced back to a woman living in Dordogne region of France 20,000 years ago. Hit you with the butt now. But this isn't reserved for my British mother and me. 47% of all Europeans are descended from this Haplogroup, which itself, see, is an offshoot. You know what an offshoot is? A branch, a tree, right? This offshoot, okay, of humans who migrated out of Africa and into Europe. So when we say fundamentally African, that's exactly what we're saying. That you have offshoots that occurred outside of Africa. But to be an offshoot, you got to come from something that came from something. So where did that something come from? Came from Africa. So that's why I use it when I say we're all Africans. But I'm done.
All right.
I'm gonna close with that.
Okay, let me just show.
Lanaya was saying something though.
So just a couple of things just to kind of go back with why we share 98% of our DNA with Neanderthal and some of the archaic human. It has nothing to do with the Y and the X chromosomes. As humans, we have 23. We get 23 from mom, 23 from...
Sister Naya, your mic went in and out.
Don't ring, muted yourself.
Okay, so we get 23 from mom, 23 from dad, and so that's a total of 46. The X and the Y chromosome, the maternal, paternal, most of the material with Neanderthal and why we share so much has to do with the other material that has to do with chromosome 1, which has something like 350 million base pairs. So altogether, we got about 3 billion DNA material. So that's why we share so much. It's not about the X or the Y really, because a couple of things about the Neanderthal. The first thing is that the Homo sapien female could not carry a Neanderthal child. So we know that the material that we see that traces back from Africa is material that is not not material from the X or the Y chromosome. It's actually from other aspects of the DNA and on the chromosomes. There's a couple of things. The hair, 70% of Asians have Neanderthal skin and hair. No, 70% of Europeans have Neanderthal skin and hair. 60% of Asians have Neanderthal skin and hair. There's some other genes that has to do with autoimmune diseases such as lupus. Another one is rickets. So the DNA that we got from Neanderthal had nothing to do with X and Y. It was more of the automosome, whatever part of the DNA. So that's all I really want to say. And the part that I focus on mainly is that, all humans are not necessarily African, because as you guys know, Neanderthal didn't evolve in Africa. Neanderthal evolved in, Asia and then Europe. So, and we know that the Homo sapien female cannot carry a Neanderthal child. So and we know that Asians have these mutations in this material from Neanderthal, and the direction is from basically Homo sapien. The direction of the genetic material is from Neanderthal to Homo sapien, not Homo sapien to Neanderthal. So there was interbreeding, but the interbreeding was very, very early in the migration out of Africa. It's likely those Africans who came into the Middle East encountered archaic humans, and that's when the breeding began about 100,000 years ago, and that's where the exchange happened. So I just wanted to kind of clear up those points, and that's why I usually go to my position that all humans are not African, because we know that there are other things happening outside of Africa. So there's not just DNA or mutations, but there's some speciation as well that's happening in other continents, which I agree with Harold. They're all geopolitical. They're not really real. They're socially constructed, and we just use them primarily to communicate. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, I want to show on the screen just quickly to reinforce what was said so far. This may be too small. This may be small on everyone's screen watching, but if you just pull up the mitochondria DNA or mtDNA haplogroup map, and then you can do the same thing for the paternal haplogroup map, which would be the Y-DNA, and you'll see these different letters and where they are located on the map. And so I was pointing over here when Unc was reading what he read of the lady having the haplogroup H on her maternal line. And you can see it's over here somewhere in France. It's north of Africa in Europe, but over here in France. You can see it right here. So it'll be H and V and HV and RO haplogroups cluster around this particular area. Regardless of what land name we give this landmass, this is where this haplogroup is found. So the labels themselves can be whatever motivated, but the land is definitely natural. So we can't confuse the naming versus the actual earth itself. All right. So and then you see all the other haplogroups. So someone asked which haplogroups are African. And I would just, again, suggest you pull up a maternal. Now, there's two different ones. There's your paternal, which is based on the Y DNA, and then your maternal based on MT, mitochondrial DNA. And so pull up those two maps, and you'll find out which ones are on the continent that today we call Africa, and which ones are not. It's just that simple. All right. To answer that question, which haplogroups are African and which ones are not. You can see by this map as well, but this may be too small. That's the maternal, and here's the paternal. So it is kind of small. Like Q3 over here is South America. Okay, so that would be an example of what's not African. All right, and so on and so forth. But you can see that all of these lines converge and intersect as you go backwards in time. So we're looking at a continuum that we can't ignore. And so this is where the two different contexts of these statements that I went over earlier, that all of these can be traced backwards in time over here to this landmass. And we call it landmass today. We call it Africa. All right. So that was it. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, let me real fast. I want to deal with a quick term real fast. Speciation. That term was brought up. I think Sister Naya brought that up. Speciation is the evolutionary process by which biological populations evolve to become distinct species. Okay? Like you got some salamanders that are distinct species. You got some baboons. They're different species of baboons, but you do not have a different species of Homo sapiens sapien. That is one species. So I don't think I'm not sure if, I'm not quite understanding what you were saying with that point, Nayo, even if I might be just taking it out of context, but I did hear the word speciation with that.
Yeah, because
I always thought speciation is when a species becomes distinct from each other.
Well,
when I was talking about speciation, I was specifically talking about Neanderthal. Neanderthal did go through a process of speciation.
Okay, all right.
In Asia. So that's what I'm talking about specifically. Okay. And then I referenced the Asian markers that are Neanderthal, specifically the hair, the skin, 60% of their skin, and Europe, 70% of their skin. So the breeding with the Neanderthal happened early in the migration out of Africa. And basically Asians evolved over time, sort of like Africans, like you make the point, like we got the brow from this place, we got the lips from that place, we got the knees from that place. That happened also in Africa. I mean, in Asia. They were also mingling over there with the Dissonandian and also the Neanderthal. So their DNA, not their DNA, but their morphology as well as their DNA is different. Their skin, so they have a lot more material from outside sources of Africa, and that's why they're primarily considered non-Africans, because Africans don't have the same type of material. Now we all have the same type of DNA, like you were talking about. 98% of our DNA is the same, but that has to do with on the chromosome level, like chromosomal, 23, 46. So when I was saying speciation, I was specifically talking about the Neanderthal.
I just want to say on the screen showing now that I showed earlier, These are different species of human. And at the bottom, you can see Homo Neanderthal. So we have Homo sapien is a species. Homo erectus is a species. All of these second words, the first word in this whole list is the genus, Homo. The second word is the name of the species. All right. And if there was a third word, it would be the name of the subspecies. This is why we're called Homo sapiens sapiens, because we are a subspecies of Homo sapiens. So these are different species of humans, and human is interchanged with the word Homo. So we have human sapiens, human erectus, human florensis, human habilis, human heidelbergensis, human nanadi, and human Neanderthal. And all I did was exchange the word Homo for human. See, these are different species.
Damn it, man. That particular chart you got right there, Uja.
Uh-huh.
Not that one, the other one, the DNA chart.
You mean the haplogroup one I was showing?
Yeah. You know what's interesting with that?
Oh, what's that? Let me pull it up. You were saying the haplogroup. Which one? This one?
Just the whole thing, period.
Okay, go ahead. Mm-hmm. I got
it. It actually, if you follow the lines on it, you know what I mean? If you didn't know nothing about nothing, you know what you do see here? That all lines lead to Africa.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. Yeah, I mentioned it.
They all tied together.
Yes.
And let's deal with the 3 domains of life real fast here, right? Because I'm gonna go a little bit more than that, right? Let's come to the 3 domains. Bacteria. Hold on, let me get the phylogenetic tree real fast. Dang.
Well, while you do that, I'm showing the hierarchy, and you're at the level of domain under life.
All right, so yeah, we got the 3 domains. We got big bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotic, right? Let me see. Should I share my screen for this real quick? Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen real fast. All right. Let me find that real fast, man. Just want to show y'all something. Y'all see the screen, right?
Give me a second.
Phylogenetic tree.
1 second. Let me.
Bacteria.
Hold on 1 second. Let me get that shared so everybody can see it. All right, you up?
Bacteria, archaea, eukaryote. Right here, we call that the universal common ancestor. So as long as you life on planet Earth, there is no separating it. There's a invisible line that ties us all together. And you know what that is? That's bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotic. You feel me? Even your DNA has a certain amount of bacteria in it, in its origin. Okay? Everything is tied together. So when they say that everything is everything, it's just that. So when the pseudo community tries to separate, right, the original or the African from the other animals on planet Earth, you can't do it. You can't separate yourself from the monkey. You want to, but you can't do it. You can't separate yourself from the chicken. You want to, but you can't do it. The only way to actually study human beings, I'm going to say this again. The only way you can actually study and understand who you are as a human being, and that's to study the other animals around you. Because as you study the other animals around you, you'll start to realize, right, that there's a lot of things that's similar. There's a lot of things that's different, but there's a lot of things that are similar. Okay? So like, let me give you a good example of some things that are similar. Man, what is it called? Naya. Not yet.
Yes, sir.
Ovulating, right? Women ovulate. I couldn't think of it.
Okay.
Damn. If you take a hamster, you take two female hamsters and put them in the same cage, right? They'll end up ovulating at the same time. They'll sync up, and it'll go to the particular female hamster that is more dominant, right? That the less dominant will link up with it, right? But see, secreting certain hormones, right? Now, if you put a male in there, in that same cage, right, they won't sync up. How do they know this? Take a male out the cage again, put the two women there, sync up. Take the air, right, from the cage of a male hamster and pipe that in, pipe them hormones in, right? Okay, because there's certain chemical reactions going on. The women will pick that up, right? And they will stop ovulating together and sync. You can do the same thing with women. Same experiment works with women, right? That the more dominant female, right, you know what I'm saying, the less dominant female, right, she'll catch up to that cycle right there, and they'll start ovulating together. Okay, put a male in there, right, they'll stop syncing up. Interesting. There's a reason for that, right? I'm saying that we're animals, right, and we're the same. Now, there's distinct differences, like, for instance, the humans, the Homo sapiens sapien, right, are the only ones that just have sex, period. Not copulate, not for just having babies, just copulate for fun and fulfilling. Where the other animals in the animal kingdom, they strictly do it, right, copulate, right, to produce, you know what I'm saying, the next generation. So there's a lot of similarities, and there's things in the human population that is totally different, good or bad. Because it can be a good thing, and it can be a bad thing just to have sex to have sex. We know that, right? I say this to say, this clearly shows, right, our interconnectedness with everything through the genes, through the cells. You feel me? So ain't no getting away from that. Now, I understand a lot of times you'll get people like those people who act like Africa is in North America, right? They'll say things like, we are the original North Americans. They're African. And see, here's the confusion. And so I know based off my conversation with Sister Naya, she wants to stop that confusion. Because even I'll say they're not African. Well, you just said everybody was African. How come the Native Americans is not African? See, and they'll use that against you. They'll take the real serious information Wu Jia and Sister Naya is talking about, and they'll mix it all together and spit it out, right? And they'll confuse those who are not down with the information in the data. Now, based off that chart that Wu Jia showed, right, that AMH ended up in North America. But based off the DNA markers, the Native American population has a distinct marker that no other human population has. Well, why is this? Why is it that the Native American population has a distinct marker that no other human population has? Because, Sister Naya will tell you, because they spent time in an area by themselves, right? And they developed that marker that no one else shares that marker. So when they say they are the seed people or the first people, because there's certain tribes that name that, they're the first, they actually are. You know, if you look at their stories, right, their ancient stories, the storytelling, it says that they're the first people, right? Guess what? They are the first people in North America based off that marker. So the question is, are these pseudos right when they say they African? Are they wrong? You got to ask them, what context are you talking about? And this is the confusion that happens in the community. So I understand the whole conversation. I just want to kind of put that out. I threw a few things together to put us together and just to kind of look at it. So y'all had to rewind this to get back into that. But do the study and do the research and understand. But the pseudo will absolutely use all that against you, man. I promise you.
And I want to reinforce, real quick, I want to reinforce, this is why it is imperative to pay attention to specific wording. There are key words in these scientific disciplines. People don't just make up these scientific disciplines. You have to understand that every single scientific discipline that's out there, you have the hard sciences like chemistry, astrophysics, biology, genetics, linguistics, all these sciences. every single science has a nomenclature of words that are used specific to that science and the way that they use it. Like people know it and understand it better with what's called legal jargon. The way and the way the words are used in the court system may be different on the street. You can use the exact same words, but they have a different meaning in a different setting. So this is why it's very important to pay attention to keywords. So this is why on the screen I have the word fundamentally highlighted or bold and in red. Because you have to understand that all humans are not African, but are fundamentally African. And we have to stop dichotomizing everything. Okay? These both statements are true once people understand what is meant by them and what's meant behind them. So like I already explained, all humans are fundamentally African because all living human beings today are Homo sapiens sapiens, which has its genesis, which means beginning, in Africa. That's it. That's not hard to understand. Why are we not? No, why everybody's not African is because of everything that Unc just mentioned and what Naya mentioned earlier. Because you have things that have occurred, genetic populations. One, you have an aspect of speciation that take place, and that speciation, which is a split, takes place outside of Africa, and those whatever the results of that speciation stays outside of Africa. Hence, Homo Neanderthal that have occurred, and therefore by that criteria, they're not African. So as long as people understand that these are different contexts in which these words use. I mean, it comes down to really basic English as well. In expressing and understanding what these words mean, all right. So, and to that Native American thing, it's because they don't understand this stuff is why people will say things like everybody who's black is African. Now they done introduced a whole nother component to the mix, which is just the lookership, just based on your skin color, and that's a United States thing, more prevalent, where people were grouped and categorized based on skin color. Even legislation was passed based on skin color and stuff. Then you had the biology. They tried to put the biology in there. Very, very poor job with the one drop rule. They didn't have the genes, but they were just saying, hey, if you have one ancestor in your tree, then guess what? You are a Negro. You know what I'm saying? So all of those things that I just mentioned just now gets into social constructs and all that kind of stuff. And we want to avoid that when we're having a discussion about genomics or biology and things like that. So biologically, everybody can trace ultimately back to Africa. And biologically, everybody's lineage is not African. So you have not non-African lineages. I gave the example of Rick Kittles, who's a dark-skinned brother who, based on appearance, you would say, oh, that brother's African or African American, whatever. But he has a European lineage on his paternal side. So once we understand that, it's gravy. It's easy. So anybody else? What happened to Nahisi? Nahisi still with us?
Yeah, he there. So I want to bring up this child, man. I got to figure out the name of this baby. I'm trying to find it real quick, man. The name of the baby, man.
All right. And I want to show this real quick. While you're doing that, I want to show this. This is a taxonomic hierarchical chart, and this is what is used. So when we say speciation or species, we're down here at this level. And so for an example, the other thing I showed, when I go back to this one, when you see Homo sapiens, Homo erectus, Homo floresiensis, Homo habilis, Homo heidelbergensis, etc. When I go to this screen, imagine all of those names being spread out left to right at this level. So those are all species. They would be on this level, the level of species. So you have a rank and you have a file. That's why you see it in red, rank. So these are ranks coming up and down, and file would be left and right. So all of these will be on the same file called species. And we just happen today, all human beings living today are a subspecies of Homo sapiens. And we've referred to ourselves as Homo sapiens sapiens, all right? So just want everybody to understand. This is why biologically, you may hear people say that there's no such thing as, or nah, I'm not gonna say it that way. You may hear people say there's only one race, the human race. And now the way that's worded, there's only one race, the human race. Now those choice words may not be favored by people, but what is meant by that is that everybody on the planet is Homo sapiens sapien. So long as you understand what's meant, then there should be no difficulty in people saying whatever they're saying. We're different, but we're all Homo sapiens sapiens, and the differences come about through different reasons. All right, so and we know we're one species because no matter what you call in these different people, socially, on the social side of things, everyone on the planet can pretty much mate. Every healthy person pretty much can mate with each other and have children. You know. All right. So socially classified Caucasians or whites or Europeans, socially classified African descendants or African Americans can come together and have children successfully. Why? Because both are of the same subspecies. All right. So what I just did was I showed you, I biologically and then socially is something different.
Gotcha.
So while you're looking for that, I was going to pass out the link to see if anybody.
And Anzick, Anzac child. All right. That's the oldest burial in North America.
All right, just 1 second. I'm gonna let everyone know that I'm gonna pass out the link to invite some guests in here to chime on in. But you go ahead. We have the brother Narada is waiting as well.
And it says Anzac remains shared common ancestor with almost every modern Native American group that we looked at. That's in South and North America. All right, and that's one of the oldest burials. So I just challenge people to find a burial older than that. All right, and we deal with that DNA marker. It speaks to the DNA marker that I was talking about. All right, and so the question is, that would be considered a non-African group, but fundamentally African. You know what I'm saying? So don't let nobody play with y'all like that, man. Seriously. Pseudos take that and just totally run with it. And I paused because I almost wanted to cuss. Just let you know I know what I want to cuss when I don't.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, but okay. So the thing is that geneticists can say these phrases and nobody has a problem with it because why? Because they understand what is meant behind it, and it's not a either or situation. They understand exactly what is meant. If they say everybody is fundamentally African, but yet everybody is not African because they understand that it's through lineage. And I think Narada actually put that up there. I'm going to post this thing inside the group.
Yeah, that's a good point. Through lineage. That's right. I think that map is a good one, man. To just show how it's all connected, though. Ain't no getting away no matter what. I mean, the reason it's different is because of environmental changes, like Sister Nye said. And so it don't even make sense to have tight curled hair in Europe. All right, you're gonna die. If you had that tight coiled hair in Europe, you're gonna die. Why are you gonna die? Because it's gonna hold too much water, and you're gonna sweat too much. That skin you got produces more sweat glands. You're gonna sweat more. So as you sweat more, okay, as your hair holds that moisture, you're gonna freeze and die. You're gonna be frozen black man. Frozen brain, you know, heat escapes through your brain, and all that water that you holding on to with that tight curl hair, you're gonna have the frozen brain syndrome. Frozen brain syndrome, frozen arms, because you have more sweat glands. Okay, this skin that's developed on Africa has absolutely more sweat glands, letting off more sweat. All right, that Neanderthal didn't sweat a lot. Okay, didn't sweat a lot, had that type of hair that released water, okay, didn't hold water. All right, let's get that straight. So you need more water in Africa because it keeps your brain cooler, because you in sub-Saharan Africa, hot, equator, hot. You need to hold water. You need to sweat more. Sweating more, need to hold water to keep your brain cool. So these things that were left over by Neanderthal absolutely helped Homo sapiens survive in those colder areas and survive in China too. All right, and so like we said, natural selection, because we can have that conversation about natural selection and why certain things on certain levels was held over by Homo sapiens.
Somebody asked a good question in the chat, and they asked, just lost it. They asked, why is the great ape considered human? And I want to address this.
Hold on, what?
Why is the great ape considered human? A human? And
why
I want
is the great ape considered human?
Yeah, I want to correct the question. It's the other way around. This is from Aku Cromanti. It's the other way around. Human beings are considered great apes, not the other way around. And remember, great ape is a classification label. So if I go back to this diagram here, just so that we're clear, when you say the word great ape, you're now at the level of family. All right, so in other words, human beings are, today's living human beings are Homo sapiens sapiens, but we're of the species Homo sapiens, we're of the genus Homo, and we're of the family of Hominidae. The word Hominidae is often exchanged with the word great ape. And we're of the order of primates. Okay, so human beings living today are primates. Human beings living today are Hominidae, or great apes. Human beings today are Homo. Human beings today are Homo sapiens sapiens, and human beings today are Homo sapiens sapiens, as a subspecies of Homo sapiens. Okay, so it's really just that simple. Just like I will say, human beings are mammals, and when I say that, I'm now rising to the level, to the rank of class. So what is our class? Our class is Mammalia, and this is why we say we are mammals. What is our order? We are primates. What is our family? We are Hominidae, aka gray apes, etc. So hopefully that's clear. It's just a matter of understanding the label system. That's it. But we're not the creature of a monkey, you know, and stuff like that. People have to understand it. And again, it's very important to study and know the specifics. This is very specific. You got to go slow. You can't microwave this. All right, but anyway, I passed out the link. I put the link on Facebook, and I'm trying to put it on to YouTube. I think it's too long.
Hey, Wuja.
Yes.
Let's go even slower. Why does the great apes share bones, like have bones and skeletons?
Why they have bones and skeletons, period?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's on the chart as well. Let me see if I can pull the chart back up then. Real quick. Let's share that.
If we would just strip everything down, you would see what the hell we was talking about. All you gotta do is go to a museum and look at skeletons. But how are bones formed? Bones are formed from DNA. DNA causes bones to grow a certain way.
Well, here it is.
Skin color a certain way.
It's at the level of the rank level of phylum where you have chordata, and these
so
are
what's chordata? What's chordata?
These are animals with a backbone.
Oh, so does fish have backbones?
No. Oh, well.
Yeah, they do.
They
got
do.
spinal cords.
They do.
Come on.
Correct. Yes.
They call them vertebrates. Wait a minute. Does a fish have a shoulder bone? Yep. Hey, look up the inner fish, everybody. Read that. Read that. So fish do have shoulders, right? And what extends from the shoulders? We say it all the time. How many bones come from the shoulders? One. One bone comes from the shoulders. Now, by the time you get to the elbow, how many bones are connected to the one bone? Two bones. And by the time you get to your wrist, how many bones are connected to the two bones? Many bones. You can do the same thing. Go look at a fish. Look at a fish anatomy. Go buy a piece of fish with the bones. Fillet it all the way down, and take the skeleton out and look at it, and then call me and hit me up on the YouTube, or hit me up at on Facebook and say, "Unc, you was right." You know, go. If you're in Atlanta, go to the human exhibit. Go there. That's serious, right? You can see the actual human skeleton. You can see the flesh on the bones. Then they get to the point where it's not there. You can look at that. And it even goes all the way down to a fetus. You can look at the fetus and how it starts, and they got each stage. They take each stage out, you can look at it. And then, you know, people are out their mind trying to figure out which stage is actually life or not. A bunch of crap. Make you realize that all those stages in the development of fetuses is life when you start to look at it. But back to the point, look at cadavers. Go look at cadavers, dead bodies. All right? Take a serious anatomy class where you deal with cadavers. Okay? Then do the same thing with a chimpanzee or a monkey. Look at their skeletons. Come on, man. You know what I mean? And we worrying about different archaic. Come on, man. Like, you just let it go, man. Some things you gotta just let go, man. Yeah, and we explain these things through evolution.
I want to visually show what you were talking about when we go through the different domains and the ranks. We have Euchara as a domain. Then we have the kingdom of animal, and animals are all these organisms that can move on their own. So there's different kingdoms. You have the plant kingdom that most people know about, and the animal kingdom. The difference between those two is that the animal kingdom are those organisms that can move on their own. Plants don't move on their own. They're rooted. They need, you know, the wind to push them and whatnot. All right. And so as you work your way down, you see that it gets narrower and narrower. So we're at the level of the phylum of the chordata, and you see fish are there. These are animals with a backbone. This is what Unc was mentioning, fish. But then when you come down to the class of mammalia, the fish is knocked out. Now, there's an exception of what we were calling a fish, which is a whale, but the ordinary fish is knocked out. All right? They don't feed their young through mammary glands. And then you work your way down to the order, and in this particular case, it's going down to get to the bottom of a dog. So we have the order of a carnivore, and then we have the family of the Canidae, which we call canine, the genus of Canis, and then the species of Canis, I think that says, see if I can read it, lupus, and then we have the subspecies Canis lupus familiaris, which is your average dog. We don't call them by these technical scientific taxonomic names. We just call it a dog. And if we so, you know, it's just a difference in how we are calling these things. But I just wanted to show this of how things are classified. And we went over this before. I think the video we went over it was pretty good, but it was one of those videos that vanished with the with the channel. So anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to share that. But I gave the link out. I think we had somebody in here, Asar Makeru Amin Ra, and I don't know if anybody else wanted to come in, but I did post the link. So whether you're watching us on Facebook or you're watching us on YouTube, if you want to chime in on this conversation, now is the time. We're not going to stay too much longer. We've been on for 2 hours, and we want to keep it bite-sized. All right, so come on and hop in and chime in. Brother Asar Makeru Amin Ra, do you have anything, any comments, questions?
Yeah, you gotta say something. Yeah, that's the rule. If you come in there, you gotta say something.
Oh, I don't know. I don't see. You may not, when you came in, you may not have did your audio.
Hello?
Okay, there you go. We can hear you.
No, this is Brother James, man. This is I don't know how they put this name. This is just my comedic name. I was just listening to you.
Okay.
Hello?
You may not have did the audio.
Yeah, you got the double feedback going on, so it's
Turn off your YouTube channel, James.
yeah, you have to mute one of them. So you just listening. Okay, cool. That's good, because actually you basically kind of made us continue this conversation, based on, you know, what you were asking about before, you know, with your questions from the last time that we had this discussion. So this is basically a continuation from that discussion, a little bit, yeah, a little bit, because you were asking some good questions, and you were asking, you were saying some things that we always said, and you know, kind of maybe got jumbled up in the conversation, but you were preaching to the choir that day, and hopefully you hear it in what we were saying now.
Yeah, I listen to Pablo too, man. Pablo ain't saying nothing different, man.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to kind of interject, I guess, is I kind of seem like y'all acting like we've always known the Neanderthals were in existence. At one point in time, it was thought the Neanderthals were extinct up until 2010. So this is really new information. As far as us having any documentation of them being having any DNA still existing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, we discuss that all the time also.
Yep, that's correct. That's what science is predicated off of, new discovery. That's why we never want to speak in absolutes, James. So
and also you have to remember, in 2003 was a huge. I think you have to mute your mic. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. Remember, in 2003 there was a huge breakthrough. It was a game changer. 2003 was when the human genome was successfully sequenced, and that was a game changer. And it has changed the way that genomics and all this stuff is being expressed, articulated, and documented, because it opens the door wide open. Now it makes it more specific, more objective, and not subjective. And sooner or later, now this is what people are saying, sooner or later these social constructs are going to fade, because they're going to be old. It's not going to have any value to that stuff anymore. It's just that we're living in a time where it's still in heavy use. So, you know, we may not see it fade like the future generations will. But because of biology, because of the genetics work, we you know, it's a game changer. I hope we're still broadcasting. And it does.
What you do? Good job. Wow.
I don't know. I'm not sure if we're still on.
Yeah, we still on.
Okay. All right. Yeah, y'all keep on. So yeah, I was just making mention that the social constructs that have been used as how is it put, as a proxy for these discussions, they don't have too much value anymore, and so it's going to slowly fade away.
Yeah, I just never. Hey James, I probably just couldn't really understand like what you just basically want to you saying that what that I mean what I'm trying to find what's the infinity for Neanderthal. What you really want to understand about that, about Neanderthals? How does it? What is it? You know what I'm saying? I never really got that connection. There may be Europeans and other people was different based off of they mixing with Neanderthal.
Right. That's
But
what.
they all need. They all. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Nye.
Yeah, that's what Pablo says. Like they not African. They that's why they call them non-African. That's the crust of the whole argument. Is the new research is that they're not African.
Europeans?
No. Yes, they are. They evolved outside of Africa.
White
so
people.
Basically, what happened? The first group of Africans who left Africa, they went into Europe.
Naya, your audio went out again.
That's the hypothesis, because no DNA evidence to prove that. But that's what they're saying. That I guess y'all saying that the first archaic humans left. Well, this is what Pablo was saying. But the first archaic humans that supposedly went outside of Africa, y'all saying that some kind of way they got a mutation in their DNA that gave them a genetic marker of a Neanderthal and a Denisovans.
I ain't say that.
No,
So
no.
what happens next is they winded up starting interbreeding with each other after the fact. When we come out, we meet that particular species, and that's how they get our DNA. They're saying that we were the dominant species, and that's why we have the dominant amount of DNA. At one point, it was thought that Neanderthals was extinct. We all thought that. That's what the out of Africa theory is.
They are extinct.
It's just a theory that the Africans came out and we just populated everything. But now they're saying that they done found the actual DNA that proved that the Neanderthals still lived within the European and everything outside of Africa. It's really just that simple.
But wait 1 second. You the way you worded that Neanderthal. Let's make it clear. The Neanderthal is extinct. So what you're talking about is that the availability of DNA wasn't.
I don't think so.
Wait a minute.
Right, that's the thing. Like the Neander. So let's just to clear up, James, that we got their DNA. The Homo sapien female could not carry a Neanderthal child. So the Neanderthal woman was the one who carried who bred.
Exactly. You know, I'm familiar with Pablo's work, so I know exactly what you're talking about. That's how you viewed it, because you're saying exactly what he said.
Right. So the Homo sapien female can't breed Neanderthal. That's how.
And it's the same thing with donkeys and zebras and horses and zebras. They can't procreate like that.
So, because the Neanderthal man, by the time Homo sapiens stayed in Asia, because Neanderthals had Europe on lock, and you couldn't get into Europe. So when they started dying out, the Homo sapien came out of Asia into Europe, and then that's when they had the breeding event. They came together. So it would be the Homo sapien male with the Neanderthal female.
Correct.
And so it wasn't the other way around. We got their material. So a Neanderthal female got down with a Homo sapien.
And it looks like that's the same thing that's going on.
So when you look at Asians, you'll see they have all of their DNA is the same. They have very little diversity. So basically, they stayed there. They started breeding, and that's how you got that out of African type of DNA. That's how you got that out of Africa type of that Asian population. So that's kind of like the theory. Basically, that's Pablo's work. Pablo is not saying that, they're all African. He's saying that they Neanderthal.
And so when another group that they just discovered called the Denisovans.
Right, that these people
when you look at all of the humans together, you will see that we the only ones with this particular hair follicle. Everything else outside of that, including the Indians, they have the Neanderthal hair. So it's kind of like when you look at it, it's like that shit make a little, excuse my language, it makes more sense. Excuse me.
Okay, but
well, they have Neanderthal hair, they have Neanderthal skin, they're more prone to Crohn's disease. The other one that I said was lupus, I think, and then there's another disease that they have. So it's more on it's not the stuff that they have is more on the autosomal level.
Yeah, I mean it's really clear cut, and we're based on our last conversation. What we were trying to explain to you was that everything you were saying, we are in agreement with. So when you pointed to Savante Pabo, we watch it and there's nothing that's contradicting to what we've always been saying. So and I just hopefully you understand that at this point, James. I guess that's my main point with you.
It's cool, bro. I'm just messing with y'all, but yeah, I don't think y'all understood. But I was saying that, see, because before Shekhar and the ancestors that came before us, it was no DNA sequencing for them to have the documentation to prove what we're kind of saying today. So
right.
They just had the theory that we just came out and there was no Neanderthal or nothing. We just mutated and turned white based on, they didn't really have the DNA to explain kind of like the way that it is now. That's all I was saying.
No, like, and we agree with that because hold up, let me just finish what I'm saying real quick. Okay, Unc doesn't agree, but I'm saying
I don't agree with that.
But when the DNA sequencing,
well, let me finish what I'm saying.
I don't agree with that.
Wait a minute, let me just say what I'm saying. Earlier I mentioned the great breakthrough, 2003. Lock the date in. That's when the human genome was successfully sequenced. And from that point forward, it was a game changer. Remember, I said all this before. So that's the part I agree with you, what you're saying, James. Prior to 2003, it wasn't the sufficient, the data that we have available today is like night and day compared to the data that was available prior. They were going by cranial features and bone structures and other things that's still used today. That's still I don't want to use that word theory because I think you're misusing it. But I'm saying they had a different criteria and set of evidence than what we have today. Today we have the actual sequencing of the genome, whereas back then.
But the Neanderthal sequence didn't happen to 2010.
Okay,
so that's why we're getting this. So the human.
Right.
Okay.
So this is the new Pablo stuff is the new stuff. So they sequenced just the Neanderthal DNA.
Yes, 2010 and 2015 you had the Denisovan with the small little piece of finger or whatever that they had.
Can I just jump in this real quick, please? As not to start cussing and get out of control. I don't even understand
why do we gotta mention that?
How Neanderthal and because an African man, and we can't necessarily say that the African women didn't have sex. They just couldn't have their babies. That don't mean they ain't have sex. But anyway, the point I want to say is, before we even left out of Africa, we was mixing with something that looked just as crazier than Neanderthal. So I never understand trying to make Neanderthal, trying to demonize Neanderthal and humans mixing with Neanderthal. Let's talk about our own backyard. Let's talk about the mixing that took place in Africa. Do you really want to talk about that? And if we talked about that, then we would understand it's ridiculous to try to act like that, well, since they mixed with Neanderthal and the African wouldn't have never looked like a white boy if they hadn't mixed with it. Man, that's ridiculous right there. That's a non-cipher, a non-scientific argument, man. We was already mixed with 3-4 different types of humans before we even left. Come on, man.
So let's.
Y'all believe in DNA, then?
Come on, man. They do got the DNA. Look at A00. A00 clearly proves my point. What the hell is A? Is hell a cuss word? It's hella cuss word.
So let's name them then. So because remember.
It's hella cuss word.
Okay, let's name them.
I asked a question. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, and if you're keen, you'll see I'm dodging it because it don't even matter. So let's name the different. Let's name it.
Say it 3-4 times.
Let's okay. Well, you gotta learn to keep it moving. So let's name it. You said that the Homo sapiens mixed with archaic, some other type of humans inside of Africa. Let's name them. Do we know any of the names of them?
Bring up the chart.
Yeah, because I'm saying we have people listening, so it's always good.
That's still not going to denote the fact that they don't have no Neanderthal DNA in Africa.
That's not the point. I'm trying to tell you, why is Neanderthal why is Neanderthal
demonized?
I'm not necessarily demonizing. This is Svante Pavo's work. This is what they saying, bro.
No, they're
using it. Hold up, they using it, and they kind of, and we got to be careful. And that's why I wanted y'all to be on it, because they can use that as a weapon. They can use it because they're going into people's genomes, and you can start doing something once you find out certain things about a person's genetics. So that's why I want y'all really on this, right? But I've been on it for like a year, so I'm kind of well versed in what's going on with the dude. But what I'm trying to get you to understand is not me demonizing Neanderthal. It's us giving a better understanding than just the out of Africa theory, which was just, we just turned white because it got cold.
Well, hold up 1 second though. I just want you to understand that Svante Pavo's work is not trumping the out of Africa theory. I don't. So maybe that's where the crossroads are, because everything else you're saying, I'm not
saying that it is. I'm just saying that he has documentation.
Right. It just provides greater. It just provides greater detail into the story instead of, the old narrative like, okay, we came out of Africa and we mutated into this person. It's just more detail. It's kind of like the same thing that Harold or Hassar was saying. It's like the difference between bachelor's level course and a master's level course. It's just more detail. It's not trumping the out of Africa theory. The out of Africa theory still stands. But
okay, I just want to make sure that was that's good to make clear, because the way that James, the way you were talking was as if it's in opposition to it. That's all. So I just wanted to make that clear. So that's cool.
Thank you, Nah.
So it's just providing more detail, and what I'm saying, I'm just gonna reiterate, is that everything you're saying, which is coming out of Pavo's work, are things that we discuss as well. So I don't see any contention with anything you're saying, but the only thing now is that Homo neanderthalis. Let me ask you this, James. As a distinct species, Homo neanderthal, right? What preceded them in terms of the continuum, the evolutionary continuum? What label of group of organisms or entities, people, beings, whatever you want to say, precedes them?
I'm not sure, because we don't even know how they got over there. That's what I'm saying. I mean, y'all say that. I mean, you could say through the genome. I don't know. I'm not pretty much. I'm not a genetic scientist. I mean, they've done the work.
No, I'm saying
what his answer is.
I'm saying. I'm speaking. I was trying to get you, if you could recall what Pavo says in terms of that question.
I never did get. That's one reason why I was calling y'all. I thought y'all was gonna give me that answer, like it's words of length.
Oh, okay. So hold up. So now check.
Kind of like what I was really kind of. I was like, okay, we have the old out of Africa theory versus this new genetic documentation. Whether y'all fall in line with what
See, when you say
this new information, that's what I called the other day about.
Okay, yeah, because see that's what I mean, that wording right there. When you say the old theory and stuff, it makes it seem like there's something that replaced something.
It's never overdo it.
But hold up. It didn't, because you got Out of Africa 1 and Out of Africa 2. So we got to make that clear. People can look those two different things up. But in Pablo's work, if you watch his lectures, he will tell you that Homo neanderthal comes out of either Homo heidelbergensis or Homo erectus. And then, and he explains the two different positions that he is given. So
right, but that's the same thing for Africans as well. We come Homo sapien, modern man, also
exactly
comes from both. So so what they really doing is basically going towards them being older than us. Basically, that's where it's gonna head, because Homo neanderthalis, he, like I said before, he's trying to say we possibly evolved in Asia. These people in Asia, then into Europe, they evolved from Homo neanderthalis, and not from the line that we have in Africa. Basically.
I can see that happening too. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm on. I'm looking at what the hell they talking about as far as, excuse my language, as far as them trying to if they trying to do that. But see, Pablo is not saying that now. He's saying that a lot of the great things that they got from the Homo sapiens sapiens. That's what he's saying now. But that maybe 100 years from now they can flip it and switch it up and say, that they were the oldest species and we come from them or something like that.
Yeah, they got some bad stuff from Homo neanderthalis. I mean, that thick hair helped them in the cold.
What?
The skin helped them, but the Crohn's disease, and if you ever know somebody,
what about the herpes? The humans got before they left out of Africa. Come on, man. Come on.
But see, they're telling you this as far as
I don't understand it.
They're trying to. See, you gotta. I'll tell you, you have not watched anything that I can tell. Because if you did, you would be a little bit more.
Pablo, what are you talking about?
Why are you not understanding what he was talking about, dude?
Because he wasn't saying what you were saying.
He's saying everything that Naya is saying. That's everything she's saying. That's what he's saying. So why?
But it's more fascinating. It's more fascinating.
Naya is having fun right now.
It's just it's all good stuff. It's not bad stuff. I know what you're saying. You saying that the argument that we not Neanderthal and Neanderthal is bad. I understand what you're saying. That's not what Pablo says. I understand what you're saying. That's not my perspective. Like, Neanderthals was bad. Nah.
Right. And so
that's not what I'm saying.
What you saying? You're saying that white people got Africans that left Africa and made it with Neanderthal, and based off of weather conditions, got something to help them out.
What the hell, you said that yourself a minute ago.
But that's a natural occurrence. That's nature.
Yeah, so what he was saying was, when we came out of there, they had some certain diseases that we didn't encounter because we wasn't indigenous to that land. That's all he's saying. So they got certain things that they can fight out, like cold weather, but they also got some stuff that's messed up in them too. That's all he's saying.
Yeah,
but some good and some bad. There's some good in Africans and some bad in Africans. And in our DNA. That's all he's saying. But you gotta review what he was talking about, bro.
I listened to the whole thing. Matter of fact, I can't believe I re-listened to that bullshit again.
All right, well, I'm done.
Pablo talk.
All right, so now check this out.
I've been on Pablo for the last 6 years. You can go back on. Well, you can't go back on YouTube no more. You can go back to radio shows I was on. We was discussing this. Because I'm just saying, like, the good, the bad. We all get good, bad things. That some things are helpful, and some mutations are helpful, and some mutations are not. Like, that's not even a. Like,
agreed, bro. Hold up. So like we can withstand hotter climates, such and such and such and such. They had some stuff that they could do, like cold weather, but they had some diseases, just like you now. They have diseases to do. But they just saying that they, through the genetic market, that they can identify certain diseases that they have. They ain't saying that whether it's good or bad, that make them bad or nothing like that. You have to kind of like chill out, bro, and review what he was saying. It ain't it's not that deep.
I want to show something on the screen. I'm showing something on the screen that I think Naya just mentioned, and we were mentioning a second ago. I was trying to show it when we were saying it. Is what you're looking at is a line. You know, if you can see my cursor, where you see a timeline, and basically you see this split from Homo heidelbergensis, because this is the question I was asking you, James. Neanderthal comes out of Homo heidelbergensis, and also modern Homo sapiens, modern Homo sapiens sapiens. When they say modern Homo sapiens, they're talking about Homo sapiens sapiens. So you can see how this split here comes here. So Neanderthal and Denisovan comes out of that. And so I just wanted to be clear that Homo heidelbergensis is found in Africa. And so you see how this timeline or this change occurs, or this so-called speciation occurs. And then you have the Neanderthal on one side, and then Denisovan on the other side, and then the Homo sapien, which is even a third. So it's in line with the list I gave earlier. I just didn't have a Homo Denisovan on there because the jury's still out for that as well. I mean, you can hear that in his documentation also. They're not sure if to classify it as a totally separate thing or whatever the case is, just yet.
Right, but you see on the map at the top how they got Homo sapiens sapien not necessarily touching Zonovan or Neanderthalis right there. A little bit of interaction right there.
Wait, where's Homo sapiens now? Oh, you're talking on the map part?
Oh, okay, that's Homo heidelbergensis. Okay, that's not. I thought that was Homo sapien, the red one.
Oh, okay. No. The Homo sapien would be the orange, and it's not on the map part. So, okay. So yeah, that's where it comes from. So, the demonized. Now, one thing that we need to get clear. Let me just throw the question out there, because this is a misconception that I see other people make, is that the Neanderthals were, quote unquote, white people. So can we kind of knock that out the park or address that a little bit? James, what you say, James?
What do you mean? They are the white people. That's who they are.
Okay, hold up 1 second. So, all right,
okay. The Neanderthal developed outside of Africa. They don't develop inside of Africa.
All right, wait. We're clear on that. So I'm not asking you.
White people?
Oh, hold up. I'm not asking you that, James. We're clear on that. So we 100% agreement on that. Yeah.
Okay, no, let me see what he's trying to ask me first, and then I'll let you go ahead. Hold on. Let me see what are you saying?
Okay, no, my question was, are Neanderthals white? And you answered. So now I got to ask you another question. Give me a date for Neanderthals. Like what's the roundabout date that you would give Neanderthals when they come on the scene?
But from what they say, because this is not me doing the research, but they say, guess what, about 40,000 years?
40 or 400?
No, I didn't say 400. I said 40,000.
All right, I'll tell you what. If you could take a moment and look that up, because you'll find that it's 400. 400. Okay. 400. So, and the reason why I ask you that.
But where do they? No matter the date. When do they come? Where do you see them develop, and where did they develop at? Was it
outside of Africa? Outside of Africa, for sure. So we agreement with that. But I'm saying the date is a ballpark figure of 400,000 years ago, and so because unless you're saying that what people are calling quote unquote white people existed 400,000 years ago, then the Neanderthals cannot be white. Can we agree with that?
Okay, well, watch this. Well, if Neanderthals aren't white, then why do everybody that have white skin have Neanderthal DNA?
Okay, now you have to understand lineage because of the interbreeding and the lineage that comes out of that because of their location. Because remember, Europe, Neanderthal is in Germany somewhere, right? Am I correct?
You're somewhere up in Europe.
Right. The reason why they get their name is because of a place called Neanderthal or whatever, Germany, or whatever the case is. So because of their location and their population, they had descendants, and through the descendancy, you will have a more likelihood of people in that same geographical location or thereabout that will share that gene pool. But the Neanderthals themselves at the time, we cannot say that they were white people unless people are going to start saying that quote unquote white people are 400,000 years old in terms of what is calling white people. I don't like to say white people. That's also a quote, because now we get into a social label, because nobody's really white.
No.
Nobody's really black.
Survive and weathers that would denote the having pale skin. But when you say white people, are you talking about the white people living today?
What do you mean? Am I saying that they look like they look today?
No, you're saying that the Neanderthals are the white people. You mean they are the white people that's living today?
Yes. That's what Pablo's saying. Not me. I'm not saying that.
Oh, Pablo's not saying that.
Pablo is saying that. That's what he's saying.
He's not saying that. So you said 3%.
So you mean to tell me that that map that he has, pretty much the same map that Waju is showing, he's saying that all of the people outside of Africa have Neanderthal DNA.
Yes,
so
if
you think about what he's saying that he's not saying that they're Neanderthal. He's saying that they're Homo sapiens, but they all have an admixture of at least 2% DNA, which would make you be able to differentiate between an African. That's how we can differentiate, because if they didn't have that Neanderthal DNA, more than likely they probably would look exactly like us.
Okay, one second.
That's how you know that DNA is in them, because you can see it through appearance.
Okay,
that's why they're saying their hair follicles look like that. They're saying that's why their skin looks like that, because of the Neanderthal DNA within them.
Okay,
now, I'm not making this up. I mean, that's what he's saying. But it's amazing to me that you said you look at all his work and you can't articulate this or understand what I'm saying.
Okay,
I
James.
didn't say this.
Okay, James, I got a question for you. I got a question for you, James, real quick. Because you mentioned 2%, and so you're saying that that's what Pablo is saying, that's what it is, and I'm saying that that's not what he's saying. I know what he's saying. I don't think you articulated it correctly, but so let me ask you this question so we could get to it. If you took your DNA test right now and it came back that you have 2%, you share 2% DNA with Neanderthal, will you start calling yourself white?
No, because see, I didn't get my DNA in the same way that they got theirs, and then you gotta use what you call common sense, like nature and stuff like that. I mean, this stuff is not really complicated.
Right.
You are what you look like.
Basically, the Neanderthal DNA
you are what you look like.
Is the hair. Just all you got to do, say, James, is the Neanderthal DNA they have is the hair, the skin. So they have Europeans and Asians have very limited diversity in their DNA pool. So 60% of Asians have Neanderthal DNA. So it's 2% of their genome, but 60% of them have it. So it's their hair, it's their skin, and then some of these other diseases like the Crohn's disease. They can say the Asians have the difficulties with the backs. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of different things on the automo level that kind of impacts their overall immune system as well as their skin and their hair. So those are the two big.
Why y'all didn't get Dr. Reggie on this? Because he know about it. I would love to hear what he would have to say about this too. You know what I'm saying? Because he on the same particular information.
Well, it's just
reach out to that brother.
It's no problem. Brother Reggie could chime in as well, but we have to be clear on a couple of things. That's what is being said and how it's being articulated, because you said, I asked you a specific question. I said, if you got your DNA tested today and it came back with 2% shared with Neanderthal, I asked you a question, would you start calling yourself white? And you said no. But yet, right before that, you said that because Europeans have 2 to 4% or whatever Neanderthal DNA, you're saying Pablo is saying that Neanderthals are white.
But Maya just clarified that it's a little bit more. It's deeper than. Have you ever watched somebody get a DNA test on the what you call it, and they say they 2% Indian, they 5%? Yes. How is that possible?
Yeah, I could tell you how it's possible. I've had my DNA.
They 2% African. They 20% European. How are they mixing that all up like that? That's confusing.
Well, it's not. It's really easy, because whenever percentages are used, you got to remember there's 3 sets of tests. There is the maternal, paternal, and then there's the admixture or autosomal, which is your nuclear DNA is being tested. So whenever somebody gives you a percentage of anything, they're talking about the admixture, the autosomal. Just make sure you know that. And so what they're saying is that certain percentage of your DNA is shared by this specific genetic population. That's all. So like if you test 80% African and let's say 20% European, all this is saying is that 80% of your DNA is shared by Africans and 20% of your DNA is shared by Europeans. It's clustered in the area we call Europe today.
Okay, now check this out. So based on that, what would you call yourself?
Well, yeah, give me a scenario. 80-20?
Yeah.
Like I just said, well, that autosomally, that person would be admixture. But they could say that they would just give you the numbers. It's like saying, is it hot outside or is it cold outside? Instead of me saying either one of those, I just give you the temperature. I say, well, it's 72 degrees. So instead of getting into the social aspect and saying, hey, I'm African American or I'm this white, we can be more objective and have more precise language now. And I could say 80% African continental shared DNA and 20% non-African continental shared DNA. Now,
see, this is where I shift a gear though. I go back into simplicity, because I know if I'm 80% African and 20% European, more than likely I'm going to look like an African. More than likely I'm going to get treated like an African.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
That's where I'm going to go.
Okay.
But you got somebody that's 50-50 or somebody that's maybe, let's give a totally different dynamic and say that they're 80% European and 20% white, but they look exactly like they're European. They're probably going to go with the European side of their ancestry.
No doubt about it. And that's what happens all day, every day. And that's called self-reporting, because people who don't even have a DNA test, they will self-report one way or the other. And so they will self-report. And you're right. But see, what you're discussing is a social interactive. That's a social construct. So I'm trying to stay biological. Biological, we could be more scientific and specific. So you can actually give the actual numbers now. So that's all I'm saying. You could give the numbers now. So
check this out. Okay, now being as though we come from we came over here on boats, right? We did not really have those thousands and thousands of years of admixture. And so if they're saying that on the continent of Africa, I guess y'all don't like me to say pure, but pure Homo sapiens, when we came over on those boats, we didn't have the admixture that they have. That's why we still maintain our African features so strong, as far as the hair follicles and all of that, right?
Well, that's in context, because even the Homo sapiens sapien is an admixture of archaic humans as well. But all took place on the continent of Africa. So I understand what you mean, but we have to be clear. So the admixture you're talking about is non-African admixture, and I would say to that you're right. So you have to remember that Africa is the most diverse gene pools, and because there was a lot of time that Africans been on the planet that allowed for these like, for example, it's explained that outside of Africa, chunks of chromosomes or chunks of DNA are inherited, but on the continent of Africa, there are no inheritance, or there's a lot less inheritance of chunks, where it's split up into nice smaller pieces. The reason why is because there was the people there on the continent were there the longest, and so more time has passed to allow that mixture and recombinations to take place on a smaller level. Whereas outside of Africa, you have whole chromosomal segments that's being transmitted and passed down. So that's how they can tell the directionality of migrations and the age of certain gene pools as well. So you have to admit, I guess what I'm saying, so it won't be confusing, is that on the continent of Africa, you had a lot of mixing going on with archaic humans. Okay.
Hey, can I ask you, man? I know y'all don't know what they look like, but I wonder what these archaic people look like. You know what I'm saying?
They look like us. Hold
on. Just check this out. So could that be like the Khoisan people mixing with the Congo people or something like that? Because you know they look different.
Now let me read this real quick. Let me show you something here. Let's get the article. I mean, you're going to have to make me a moderator or something, Uja. I don't know if that's possible, right? But I want to share.
That's suicide right there, man.
Huh?
That's channel suicide.
Oh, really? So if I go to Son, I'm a moderator. His channel ain't never got knocked down. But all right, before they left Africa.
You want to take chances? That's cool. We can take a chance. All right.
Before they left Africa, modern humans interbred with archaic humans. Report DNA studies. This is popular archaeology. I'll just give you the link, Wuja, and you can go ahead and post this because. Or
you could share your screen just as easy too, as well. You know, so people can see what you see if you don't mind. That's the purpose of the share screen.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Yo, what is this? This YouTube?
Yeah, we're on YouTube. We're on YouTube and Facebook. Same time.
I never seen it look like this.
On time. Now let me share this real quick. And this is my point. Because for me, this is where the rubber actually meets the road. And so all of a sudden, since white people are Neanderthals, I'll take that. Now, I'm sharing my screen. So if white people are Neanderthals, then who are black people? It says, it has become interestingly clear through DNA studies that modern humans may have interbred with Neanderthal. We know that question has been totally answered. It says in Eurasia, following their migration from their ancestral African homeland. Okay? Now, based on new DNA research conducted by the team of scientists from the University of Arizona, look up the University of Arizona and the University of California, San Francisco. It seems that modern humans had already established a pattern of mixing it up with their more archaic cousins before they even left their southerly African climes. Now watch this. And so it's almost like you can see the twig in somebody else's eye, but can't see the log in your eyes. So black people mix it up way more than anybody else mix it up after they left. Let me finish. Says team leader Michael Hammer, associate professor in research, scientist with the University of Arizona Research Lab. He said, we found evidence of hybridization. Look up hybridization, is important. Hybridization between modern humans and archaic forms, not form, but forms with an S in Africa. It says, it looks like our lineage always exchanged genes with their more morphologically diverse neighbors. This conclusion and study details and results were published in the proceedings of the National Academy of Science using a computational and statistical approach through simulations of genes sequence. The researchers were able to identify unusual regions in the genome that would be indicative of fragments of archaic human genes inherited by anatomically modern humans. DNA samples from modern sub-Saharan populations were taken for the testing. Morphologies differ from that used recently by other scientists in genetic studies in modern and Neanderthal humans. It say while DNA samples can be successfully extracted for testing from Neanderthal fossils, DNA samples from the remains of archaic humans in Africa cannot be successfully obtained as more tropical environments conditions in Africa did not permit significant preservation of their DNA through time. It say the team thus used simulation techniques based on predictions of what archaic human genome sequences would look like and had survived within the DNA of modern human cells as substituted for the lack of available DNA. Now, what I would like to do is let me come to an actual, another article, right? Where they got that from, okay? So we always want to go to where they got that from. They got it from genetic evidence for archaic admixture in Africa. And this is what the read actually says. It says the long debated question concerns the fate of archaic forms of the genus Homo. Did they go extinct without interbreeding with anatomic modern humans, or are their genes present in contemporary populations? Same thing we talked about. So why is it crazy as heck when you leave Africa and the white people are just these people because they mix? But the mixing that took place in Africa is cool. We're gonna have to figure that out. It says the question is typically focused on genetic conditions of archaic forms outside of Africa. Here we use DNA sequence gathered from 61 non-coded autosomal regions in a sample of their sub-Saharan African population, the Mandinka, the Blaka, and the San, to test models of African archaic admixture. We use two complementary approximate likelihood approaches and the model of human evolution that evolves recent population structure with and without gene flow from archaic population. Extensive stimulation results rejected the null model of no admixture and allow us to infer that contemporary African populations contain a small portion of genetic material, 2%, that integrates 35K from the archaic population that split from the ancestors of anatomically modern humans, 700K. Three candidate regions showing deep haplogroup divergence, usually patterns of linkage, disequilibrium?
Disequilibrium.
Yeah, I know the word, I can't even say it. Say it again?
Disequilibrium.
Disequilibrium and small basal-clad size and interfered and distributions of integressive haplogroups surveyed in the sample of the population from across sub-Saharan Africa. All right, so I done went this far. The point I'm making here is that for us to sit up here on these shows, for us to talk about how it wouldn't be no white people without Neanderthal, and how it made them crazy, or it made them this, it gave them certain disease, it had that. That's called being a damn hypocrite. Because we got heavy mixing with not only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe different types of archaic human beings. It's a crazy argument. It don't even make any sense, because without this interbreeding, would none of us be here today.
Okay, I'm sorry. So who making those points? Are we on a different? You talking about this show or a different show?
Well, they say when you throw a rock, the one that cries is the one that hit.
I kind of got shuffled around right there too. I'm like,
you
man,
went all the way. Okay, we gonna give you that one. I don't know where.
Yeah, I don't know who you addressing on that one, huh?
No, I wasn't addressing. No. Come on, man. We know the pseudo community always talks about that white people came from Neanderthal. Am I correct in this?
Oh, right. That's what I was
talk
asking.
about the breeding and how awful it was to breed with Neanderthal and how we never breeded with nothing. We was the pure Africans. That is not.
That's the truth. Damn, I don't understand. What's wrong with you? I don't understand what's the problem with that shit?
Wait, hold up. But let me check this out. But based on the conversation so far from when we started till now, all Homo sapiens were Africans the longest. Like humanity was Africans the longest than they were not African. Now we could make that clear. So all the mixtures that took place was in Africa.
Hold on, say what? Say what?
Okay, I'll say it slow. Humanity has been Africans for longer than humanity has been non-African. Okay?
Correct.
On a macro level, we can understand that. I'm talking about the time frame. Okay?
I get what you're saying. We was Homo sapiens first.
We were Homo sapiens first, and we were in Africa the longer than like humanity has been inside of Africa longer than humanity has been outside of Africa.
Hey, you know what's deep, Wuja?
Wait, can
humanity is mixed.
That's for sure, but that's
deep.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I'm trying to walk. As long as everybody understands.
I'm just tripping on up though. If other Africans are Mexican with other Africans on the continent that look similar to them or whatever.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, and then another thing, what you had read, I understood what you read. I don't know if you understood what you read, but what you said was that the archaic DNA is not it's not enough evidence for them to show, but they just using a hypothesis to say that this is possibly what happened. They don't have any archaic DNA evidence to prove that that's the link, right?
No, because it didn't preserve.
Not on the continent. They have it off the continent.
Yeah, and based on
science is predictive. Science predicts things, and based off of predicting, like for instance, if I jump off of this chair, right, flying through the air, I'm gonna hit that daggone ground. We can predict that based off of other things happening. So based off of testing Neanderthal DNA and seeing where it falls at in the human genome, they can predict, right, based off of the fact that there are other humans there, based off of the fact that certain things are happening that are very, very, very weird on the human genome, they can predict that it actually did mix. And now they have actual bones to show that humans mixed on Africa.
Yeah, and by that standard, now I'm bringing it back into the context of this whole conversation. Then I think what Brother James is saying is that even Homo sapiens mixing with archaic humans, they did so on the continent. Therefore, they would still be all African.
Indeed.
So really, so as long as you
Wait.
deal with, as long as you have sex with a bear on Africa, it's cool. If you leave Africa and have sex with a bear, then it's uncool. All right, man, whatever.
You just, Wu made the same point to me earlier, and you agreed with him. Come on.
Yeah, because we have lineages. See, that's why. See, we got to understand, man.
Wait, how's that the same point? I don't get that being the same point. I get it as mixing is mixing is mixing.
Well, no, because okay, if mixing is mixing,
what?
if mixing is mixing is mixing, then why would we have this disparity then? So it's not that simple.
No. What disparity?
Okay, you said mixing is mixing is mixing.
Right.
Okay, so you're saying now mixing in and of itself is the act of mixing. So I agree, but we got to be specific. I don't understand. Like sometimes we talk surface and then sometimes we get in details.
I ain't talking no circles. I said the humans had.
No, I said surface.
With a couple different species of humans, yo, in Africa.
And
that's a fact.
That's absolutely true.
I mean, they all Africans.
And so James agrees with you, and James says because that occurred in Africa, and they were also Africans, even though we call them archaic, then they still all Africans.
Yo, if I have sex with a red bone, does that mean that she's not African?
No, I admit that since it happened on the continent of Africa, since they ain't have no lines back then, like they ain't have no borders. We can play the game. They ain't had no borders.
I got a DNA board, and this show where the Neanderthals started up in Europe.
Nah.
That's where the border is. That's what you ain't getting. That's what they showing through DNA. That's what the border is. But Homo sapiens.
Yeah, that's not
where Homo sapiens is at. They down in Africa. When they start where the Neanderthals at, that's where you see admixture. That means that they're not pure, no longer pure Homo sapiens no more. They are something else. And
Okay.
Wait a minute, but there ain't no pure Homo sapiens. That was mine.
It is on the continent of Africa.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I just read the article. It can't be pure Homo sapiens.
What do you mean? Hold up. Well, when they came out of Africa, how did they get Neanderthal in their DNA?
When they came out of Africa, they was already interbred. All right.
Not with no Neanderthal, they wasn't.
Hold up, James.
With other archaic humans.
Hey, James.
On, I know what I'm saying.
No, I'm saying, James, you talking real loud. I don't know what kind of phone you got, but boy.
You got a phone.
Hey, James,
is this better? I don't know if I need to cut. I don't know how to cut it.
Yo, you got
just pull it away from your.
Phone, yo, that shit be loud.
Ah, come on.
I got a Galaxy 8. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, just pull it away from your mouth a little bit. That's all. Maybe that's it.
Yo, turn it. I almost said a cuss word, but I.
Nah, you already said one right before it, but it's all good.
When? I did not.
Oh man.
All
right, look. Hold up. No, all right, here we go. We're gonna timestamp this because Naya, you're gonna be my witness. We're gonna timestamp this right here, and you hear Unc say he didn't say one, but he did. We're gonna rewind it when we're done. But anyway, so listen. So what I wanted to say though is that this is the thing. In order for Homo sapiens to mix, then at the point prior to mixing, they weren't mixed just by the logical definition of mixing.
Now stop. You're getting in trouble right now. Don't you do it. Don't you do that.
Okay, so all right, so how am I in trouble?
You're in trouble because Homo sapiens is a mix.
No, okay.
Is a mix.
Wait. Okay, hold up. Homo sapiens is a mix.
Yep.
So
you would not have Homo sapiens without these archaic humans coming together.
Now that's a different statement. That's a different statement though. But what is being deemed Homo sapiens there has to be something. There has to be something that we would identify as that.
Nah, dude. I ain't gonna lie to you. I've been up for the last 10 days reading, and at the end of the day, throw everything out the window. Homo sapiens is really a mix.
Okay, so if you're saying Homo sapiens is a mix,
yeah.
But look at what you're doing. Hold up, but look what you're doing. So let me ask you: is Homo erectus a mix?
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just dealing with the studies, and as a matter of fact, probably so. Yep, because you got Homo erectus in Africa, and you got Homo denisovans.
Okay, so check this out.
What's the different type of Homo erectus?
Okay, so check this out. Now earlier,
they're all intermixed. Yes, so you're right. They are all intermixed.
Okay. Now check this out. Earlier, you pulled up a picture of a eukarya. You had the different domains. Remember that?
Yeah, and show how they was mixed.
Okay,
yeah.
Wait. You show how those 3 domains did. Then you show at the bottom how everything merged into one.
Yeah,
and you made a statement, everything is everything. So by your standards and what you're saying, everything is a mix. So I just want you to understand that now that since we could say everything is a mix, then what we're calling Homo sapiens is an identifiable distinction. So let's just work with that. Homo sapiens is an identifiable distinction from everything being mixed.
Almost, not necessarily. And that's what they're starting to talk about now. That is very that when they start to find these different bones now, it is not as easy, it's not as distinct as we thought it was.
But hold up, wait. Now I'm speaking on the microbiological level because when we're talking about
I'm saying bones and stuff now. When they find these different bones.
Okay, I understand that. But
it's all mixed up now. It's crazy now.
Okay.
Because remember they thought Australopithecus was really like the genius of the Homo group, right? They thought that maybe but that's not it now. She's not that.
Australopithecus.
Yeah, Australopithecus, right? Lucy or Degnesh, which Dr. Ben talked about, right, is not did not produce the human line. You got Australopithecus ardi.
Okay, I understand that, but I'm on this mixed thing.
So they got different. Matter of fact, I can get it, yo, because I've been reading this for the last few days, man. I'm
on this mixed thing. I
hear what you want to say, but I'm saying that gonna get you into trouble, like it got me into trouble.
No, it's not, because I'm saying the reason why we label things, labeling things sets up a demarcation line. Okay, so when we call something, we know fundamentally everything is everything, as you pointed out. And now, if we're gonna ride in that paradigm that everything is everything, then we wouldn't have all these millions of labels for all these different things. I wouldn't call this microphone a microphone, or this mic stand a mic stand. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a computer monitor, a computer monitor from a computer, from this book right here in my hand. Wait, I'm saying the reason why we label things what they are is because we set up these distinctions. So what we're calling Homo sapiens sapien is a categorization and a setup of a distinction. We can distinguish Homo sapiens sapien from Homo erectus. True?
We can distinguish Homo sapiens sapien in words, but when it comes down to the fossil record, it's hard to distinguish a lot of different things. What they thought fit in this category no longer fits in this category.
Okay, so are you saying Homo sapiens sapiens is the same as Homo erectus?
Nope, I'm saying.
Okay, so let's work with that. Let's work with that.
How do they know that?
Hold on. Let's work with that. Let's work with that. So we can distinguish. Keyword distinguish. We could distinguish Homo sapiens sapien from Homo erectus. True or false?
Yeah, but it's not as distinct as you would want it to be.
Well, I haven't said what I wanted to be. I'm not. Yeah, well, I'm not. I ain't go that far yet. I'm going slow.
Keep going though. You get to your point though. I don't feel like don't do me with the long going out.
I'm not. The faster you answer my question, the faster I'll go. So.
No, but you take me like I'm on a witness stand. Just come on, get to your point. You're trying to get me stuck in. Come on.
All right, let's go on. Let's go on. All right, let's go on to something else because now let's go on to something else because.
Come on with that, man.
Okay, let's go on to something else because.
365 questions to ask Brother Unk. Stop that, man. Get to your point.
Man, you keep bringing up those kind of things like you did last time. Okay, you said I'll be in trouble, and I'm saying I won't. But let's go on to something else because you don't like the way I slow down. You like to go fast.
No,
so
just say the point you're making. What's the point you're making?
I already made my point. I'm actually backing it up now.
I can't try to hear your point, bro. Just go on to say that.
I already made. I started with my point. Now I'm qualifying my point. I said.
Qualify your point.
No, I was doing that. So I'm going to restate the point. My point is that Homo sapiens sapien is a distinct thing. When he said pure Homo sapiens sapien, you said that there is no such thing as a pure Homo sapiens sapien because Homo sapiens sapien is mixed. And I'm saying that if somebody were to say pure of anything, because like I said, everything is everything. Like you gave an example earlier, you said there's bacteria inside of humans and stuff like that. So there's no pure anything in that very strict sense that you were saying, oh, Homo sapiens sapiens not pure, whatever. So in a conversation, when we say Homo sapiens sapiens, we're simply just talking about a distinct type of human being. That's it. So there is a Homo sapiens sapien that's distinguished from non-Homo sapiens sapiens. And in that sense, if I say pure Homo sapiens sapiens, out of the Homo sapiens sapiens, they're not mixed until they meet up with non-Homo sapiens sapiens, i.e. or such as the Neanderthal in the Levant area and they interbred. Right or wrong?
That's a question for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying, do you agree with that? That Homo sapiens sapiens mixed with Neanderthals at some point?
Yeah, outside of Africa.
Okay, right. So those Homo sapiens sapiens can be distinguished from those Neanderthals for us to even say that they mixed.
Sometimes it can be.
Boy, you a hell of a motherfucking dude. I mean, but I feel you. Okay.
I'm just saying, through the bone, sometimes they can. Sometimes they can, and sometimes they can't.
All right, let's talk about the times that they can.
I can show you a skeleton of that they just found. What about Homo naledi? That changed the whole game. What is Homo naledi? What is that?
It's different
You
from
know
Homo
what I'm saying?
sapiens
Right, but
sapiens.
simply,
It's
but
different from
simply
Homo
being
sapiens sapiens.
archaic, just simply being archaic just means basically robust features. What makes the Neanderthal different is going to be like the genetic material and the alleles, which was specific to that out of Africa experience. So when we know that, you know, they're non-African mainly because they were archaic, yeah, but that archaic is their robust features. What makes them non-African is those alleles and that stuff that they picked up in Asia and in Europe. So that's the difference. So the Africans wouldn't have picked up that out of Africa experience. Everything was in Africa. So yes, they were archaic, but fundamentally, that big word we're using, they were pure Africans.
Okay.
What? Oh man, I disagree. We can move on though.
Yeah, it's right there. It's plain. Homo sapiens sapiens originate in Africa. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? Homo sapiens sapiens. Homo sapiens sapiens. Their genesis was inside of Africa.
Uncle agree with evolution. This is what's crazy. He agree with evolution. He's saying that at one point that they were Homo habilis or whatever. They was a distinct species at that time. They evolved into at one period in time Homo sapiens. That's what they were. They wasn't. It wasn't no admixture or nothing like that. The DNA is what
Unc not saying that. Unc not saying that in 2017. Unc position has changed. In 2017, Unc is now saying, based off of the new available fossil finds, right, that certain things that were in certain categories have moved out of that category, that Homo sapiens sapien is a collection of archaic humans that inbred with each other to give the Homo sapiens sapiens certain features. And after they got their certain features, they still then interbred with other robust archaic human beings, and then they left Africa and dealt with another set of archaic humans.
So what you saying is before they left Africa, they had all this interbreeding created the Homo sapiens.
Some kind of different type of archaic human that all of a sudden that when you make with that, you're a different type of human. Man, the process of being Homo sapiens sapien is mixed. So when they left, they continued that process of interbreeding. That's why they interbred, because that's something they used to doing any old way.
Okay, let me ask you. I got a question for you.
But if you agree with DNA, all they're saying is through scientific research, they found out that all non-Africans are Neanderthal. That's what they say.
I got a question for you, Unc.
No. All non-Africans are Neanderthal.
They have Neanderthal DNA. Come on,
that's the two different statements, though. Now you don't think that's a different statement?
Yeah, that's what she said.
I see. Yeah, it is a different. James like to say they Neanderthal.
Acting like he's fucking dumb. Okay, dumb. You know what we talking about, bro.
No, I don't know what you're talking about, because then
hold on. Let me be clear. All non-Africans have Neanderthal DNA.
Okay, and all Africans got something else that ain't called Neanderthal DNA.
No, but that's the difference between morphology and DNA, You got to incorporate both. You're right what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, but that's the morphology part of it. The DNA was right. The DNA was the same, The morphology was different. But off the continent,
the DNA was not. Hold on. What'd you say? Now I missed it. You said what?
I'm saying the DNA was because the continent, the alleles with the African and how it was different than outside of so Asia is not different than Africa. No. It's a different climate, right?
No. It's a different. You're saying the alleles on Africa was different than the alleles off of Africa.
Yeah.
If you're a monster in Africa, you got monster African DNA.
That's not scientific.
Neanderthal. We call them monsters. So let's call them monsters.
No, we're
certain
not.
Things happen in the environment, natural selection, the environment, natural selection. So in Asia, there was pressure, there was stress from the environment, and so that produced different phenotypes and stuff. The same thing in Africa happened, yes, but the environment was different.
So you got a nappy-headed Australopithecus.
Okay, I got a question for you, Unc. Serious question.
You got a nappy head A00.
Okay, Uncle, I got a serious question for you. Okay.
No, you don't. You
Yes, I
trying
do.
to set a trap.
No, I'm not. Okay.
Trap before you set it.
Okay, listen, we got Homo sapiens, right? And they are living inside of Africa, on the continent of Africa. What you said? Hold on, let me set up the scenario. Hey, you trying to dictate the scenario? I'm trying to ask you a question. So here's a scenario. Here's a scenario. We got Homo sapiens living on the continent of Africa. They doing their thing. All of a sudden, they meet up with archaic humans, because I'm using your narrative. So they meet up with some archaic humans and they interbreed with them. Are you with me? You still with me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, me switch up. Look like you stepped away. I'm like that. Unc done moved away from the screen and everything. So we have Homo sapiens meeting up with some archaic humans, but they're doing so on the continent of Africa. All this is taking place on the continent of Africa. So my question is, the descendants from that interbreeding, what are they called?
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Now a new question: would you call them Homo sapiens?
Yeah, we would call them Homo sapiens.
Or let me make sure this is straight. I'm saying
Homo. The narrative on what a Homo sapien was, because it seems to be a running narrative that all of something sapien is just purebred African.
No. That's not what I'm saying. Just follow what I'm asking real quick. I'm saying we have Homo sapiens interbreeding with some other archaic humans on the continent, and those descendants. I'm saying, would you call those descendants of that mixture Homo sapiens?
I'm gonna call them Homo sapiens interbred.
But they're not going to be the same as Homo sapiens. Am I correct?
Well, Homo sapiens are interbred. There is no Homo sapiens without interbreeding.
That was a different question. Okay, but that's not.
No, I just want to make that clear for the record.
Okay.
There aren't a such thing as Homo sapiens that weren't a composite of different archaic humans. I just want to make that for the record.
Okay, got you. But now answer my question. You probably forgot my question because you were trying to make that point.
The question was, are they still called Homo sapiens? Yeah, we're going to call them Homo sapiens. But now it's clear what a Homo sapien is now.
Okay, so hold up. Wait. So I just want to get clear. So you're saying a Homo sapien who has mixed with the archaic human that's not a Homo sapien. You're saying the result of that interbreeding, you would still call that Homo sapien.
Yeah, because Homo sapiens are to interbreed now.
Okay, now let's take that same logic. Hold up, y'all. Let's take the same logic. Here we have a Homo sapien. They meet up with a Neanderthal now, and they got interbreeding right there. Yep. Would you still call that offspring Homo sapiens?
Yeah.
You would call that Homo sapiens as well?
Yeah, the ones that survive are these.
Yeah, the descendants.
The
descendants, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
what I'm saying is that the Indians, the Europeans are just as much Homo sapiens as the African is on the continent. That's all I'm saying.
So okay, no,
because to be interbred is to be a Homo sapiens. That's all I'm saying. I just want to make that clear. Woo job.
Okay, so I'm following you now. So basically, no matter. So now I'm gonna fast forward. Basically, according to your logic, whoever Homo sapien interbreed with, they'll still be called Homo sapiens.
Whoever the Homo sapiens bred with.
I'll say it again. Based on the two scenarios, and now I'm fast forwarding because now I have established your logic. Whoever Homo sapiens interbreed with, that result or that descendancy will still be called Homo sapiens no matter who they interbreed with.
No, that don't make no sense, Wu Jiao.
That's exactly what you're.
No, that's not what I'm saying, Wu Jiao.
That's Hold up. Does anybody else?
No, first of all, I'm sitting here reading this, so I ain't really paying too much attention.
Okay, all right. So let me
erase everything back there. Let's get right here. If you're saying if a lion mixed with a bear,
Nope.
At the end of the day, that bear is still gonna be a bear. That's not what I'm saying, Wuja.
Nope.
I'm not saying that, bro.
Nope, that's not. I purposely asked you. It's only me and you.
Did that long ass line.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Let me ask you a question. If a lion breed with a cheetah, what is that?
I have no idea.
Okay, but no, see, now y'all get into animals. See, listen, man, listen. When I talk, I'm specific. I ask you questions. That's why you got to pay attention. No, that's why you. Okay, if you think I play trickology,
because you already know the answer. You already know.
No, I really don't. I don't know what you're gonna say. I'm not psychic. I'm not psychic.
Hold on. Let me ask you then, Ujal, the same question.
Go ahead. All right, go ahead.
So if Homo sapiens sapien mixed with Homo Neanderthal, what is it?
It's not a Homo sapiens sapien.
What is it?
And it's not a Neanderthal. It's a mixture of the two.
Okay, but that's what I said.
That's not what you said.
That was my point, though, Uja. You kept asking a long question.
I didn't ask a long question at all.
Well, I misunderstood the question. Then for the record, I misunderstood the question because I was trying to read this.
Okay, and that's why I said, are you still there? Because when I talk,
I was reading this.
Right, so that's why I would have went on to something else. Okay, so now let's rehash real quickly then.
Start over again.
Okay.
Now I'm focused.
Okay. Now you got your weapons. You got your tools now. All right, so good. Okay.
I'm focused on you and your tricky questions. Go.
All right, here we go. We're going to start over real quick.
Do it again.
We're going to start over real quick. All right, here's the scenario. We got Homo sapiens chilling in Africa. They doing their thing. They meet up with some archaic human beings still on the continent of Africa. All right, go ahead.
Freeze.
All right.
I need to freeze at this point.
Go ahead, freeze. All right. What?
The point Uncle's making for the listening audience that you don't even arrive at Homo sapiens right, without these archaic humans coming together. You can go to the Max Planck Institute and they'll talk about things like the cranial, the back it out cranial. Because see, the elongated cranial is what separates Homo sapiens. But this elongated cranial came from an archaic species. Your eyebrows, your forehead came from an archaic species. Your mantle, your chin comes from an archaic species. So these different phenotypes all come together to form Homo sapiens based off of the research at Max Planck Institute, the same place where Pablo, does his research at. I just want to do that for the record. So Homo sapiens is a mixture from the start.
Okay.
From the start.
Okay, hold on. Naya, let me just real quick, Naya.
These different features they're calling Homo sapiens. Now go ahead and move forward.
Okay, so that's great. All right, so now I'm gonna accept everything you just said.
You ain't got no choice because I can back it up. You have no choice in the matter.
No, okay. Number one, I never disagreed with anything you just said.
Keep going. So keep moving. So where's your disagreement at then? Let's get to your disagreement of what I'm saying.
No, I'm gonna get to my question because we're doing this again.
Hold on. Before you get to your question, can you tell me where you disagree with me at, please? So at least I'll know. See, you know you disagree with me at.
No,
I want to know too. So when you start questioning me down to the ground.
Okay, listen.
Now you got to do Wuja like this. So Wuja, where am I wrong at? In everything that I've said, where am I wrong at?
In everything you just said, I will repeat. I agree with it. So I don't know why you want to force a disagreement out of it.
Question me down then. If you agree with everything I said, then what's the question for?
So let me get to it then. Can I do that?
So what's your point of contention then?
Everything. Listen, man. Everything doesn't have to be a contention. I'm asking you a question. Okay.
For what reason? There has to be a reason for you to ask me a question. What is your reasoning?
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question, but since you don't disagree, then what is your reasoning for asking me questions like this?
Because and I'm going to tell you, because my question has nothing to do with everything you just said, and I agree with that.
Your question has something to do with?
Let me get to it. Why concept? Why? Let me get to my question. Let me get to my question.
Why don't you tell me what you don't understand first? Because you're trying to set me up. See, I know you're I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I can smell the gunpowder. See, I see.
Oh,
go
boy.
ahead, John. I'm going to let you try to set me up.
Okay.
For the listening audience, you guys trying to set me up.
All right, so listen. All right, so hold up. For the record, everything you said, I agree with. I'm there with you. We eye to eye on that. Okay,
You just
so
lied. You don't agree with everything because you wouldn't be.
no,
I agree
listen,
I agree to
listen. Everything you just said, the whole spiel you just gave about Homo sapiens sapiens being a result or a composite of mixing. Okay, so we're there. We're both there, and it's all good. Okay.
But you know
Hold on, I agree too. You believe it or not, I agree with you, bro.
Okay, so hold up. So all right, so let me get this out, y'all. Let me get this out, cause boy, you okay? So here it is. So we have this group of humans that we're calling Homo sapiens sapiens, who are what Unc said they are. Now they over in Africa chilling, and they meet up with a group of human beings that are not Homo sapiens sapien. Okay, and we're calling those group of people archaic humans. All right. Now, when they meet up with those archaic humans and they interbreed with them and they have offspring, I asked you, Unc, what would you call those offspring? Your answer was I don't know at first, and then hold up. You said I don't know. Then I asked you, would you call them Homo sapiens sapiens? And that's when you said yes.
Yeah, because I said that was a mistake I made because I was reading this. I said I made.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so you wouldn't call them Homo sapiens. All right, cool. So if that's the case, then we can end right there, because I was basing it on the answers you were giving me. So we could end it right there.
Yeah. So what was science called?
So the lesson learned is for Unc to pay attention to when somebody's talking to him.
Right, agree. You know, they were calling them. They're calling them Homo sapiens and Neanderthal. That's what science calls them. That's why we're using these terms.
All right, so yeah, that's funny. So
what? The science don't call them that. They say it's a mix between a Homo sapiens sapien and a Neanderthal. When they found a bone in the caves of Israel, they found a half Homo sapiens sapien and a half Neanderthal.
Wait.
That ain't what's walking around.
What?
Hold up.
Yeah.
Wait, when you say half,
what was it, from the hip down? He was a Neanderthal. From the hip up, he was
or maybe the correct term is a hybrid.
No, they actually found a half Neanderthal, a half Homo sapiens sapien.
Wait.
Does anybody want to challenge Unc on this?
Man, you out of control.
Hey, Unc, I want to ask you, because that's confusing. Let me ask you this question. When you say
confusing.
Obviously
that was the baby. You get my point?
No, when you say hold up, when you say half what and half what? Say it again.
Yeah, they found the mix. They found the Neanderthal Homo sapiens sapien mix in the cave in Israel.
But okay, when you say half, are you okay? Hold up. When you say half, are you talking about the bones or genetically? When you say half, so half of it was Homo sapiens sapien.
Neanderthal features and Homo sapien features.
Oh, but it was distributed like all throughout the skeleton, or you saying like the bottom half from the hip down was Homo sapiens sapien, and from the hip up?
No,
well, as funny as that may sound, as funny as that may sound, that's exactly what the Australopithecus were. From the hips down.
That shit is genetically impossible, man. You need to cut that shit out.
From the hips down, they was human. From the top up, they was monkey. Absolutely. And when I say monkey, I mean apes.
Come on, bro.
Hey, yeah, you got to be careful.
Back in the Wobbyism, you tripping? Come on, bro.
You got to be careful with that monkey word, boy.
Yeah, all right. You know what I mean, though, man.
I know. Okay, so all right, so we have this Israel.
Yo said I went back to you. Why? Go ahead with that, James.
So you said, so we have this Israel person that's half Homo sapiens sapien, and his top half is
right,
Neanderthal.
but that just note it was in Israel.
Yeah, out of Africa for Naya. So let's make it clear for Naya that is not African. Woo, boy, I tell you, man. Listen, this African versus non-African. I'm gonna tell you. Listen, y'all. Look, there's an easy way to really kill. To eliminate all of the ambiguity and all that stuff, like when we get into geopolitical naming of continents and stuff like that, you know what will eliminate that is if we start using longitude and latitude coordinates, because then nobody can argue. If I say 29 point whatever east and 31 point whatever west longitude latitude, nobody can argue with me on that. Just the same way if I say how's the weather outside, and one person say cold, other person say hot. See, that'll spark an argument. But if somebody were to say, hey, it's 72 degrees, see, that's objective communication. That's being objective. That's objective language. So once we start incorporating numbers and things like that, it eliminates all that subjectivity. And so whether people like the word Africa or not, or all this stuff and get into social constructs and geopolitical constructs, we can eliminate that by saying, okay, right here in this area, this zone of this longitude and latitude area is where the maternal haplogroup N3 has its highest frequency. Now, if I say that, can nobody argue with me?
But what I'm trying to figure out, Wujo, is why do they got a problem with using the terms that we can understand for today? We know what Europe is today, so why can't we use those terms?
Well, I'm just saying it confuses the conversation, because you got to remember that you got this social construct that's stuck in people's head of white, black, and then they got American, Asian. We're naming places, but then we're trying to name people and all that. So it gets real confusing real fast. Okay,
let me ask you this. Well, what's wrong with that? To describe people by what we call them today. What's wrong with that?
No, I'm saying we do it, but it's very, very vague. It causes confusion when we're trying to be specific. Like, for example, let's say you have a child. Let's say you're born in America, but you in the military, you over there in Japan on a base in Japan. You have a child in Japan, so
you talking with a non-African woman?
No, African woman, a black woman, whatever the case is.
Okay.
I ain't gonna put that on you. So, but you have the child over there, and so it's born and registered there. So by citizenship, it's Japanese. So if I were to say, so if you come over here and say, hey, my child is Japanese or whatever, people will have a certain social construct in their mind, stereotype, whatever, how that should be, and they would think that's odd. Like, wait a minute, what you mean Japanese? He ain't Japanese, or whatever the case is. Those are social, national, ethnical, and all those are different kind of constructs than what we're talking about biologically. That's all I'm saying. On a biological conversation, we're gonna have to make sure we make note of all that stuff. It's different. It's different. Can't do it. Can't do it. So I'm saying, even with the raised eyebrows as far as continental names, if we start using longitude, latitude coordinates, that will shut all that down.
But a lot of people don't know longitudes and latitudes, bro.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm not.
That means, so which one would be better to use? Let's do the math on that.
No. I'm saying in lay conversation, obviously I'll say Africa, but I'm saying when there's a contention that takes place, then if people don't like me saying Africa versus non, or let's just say like Asar said earlier, Diop considered the Middle East as Northeast Africa, but most people don't do that. So if Diop was having a conversation and he'll discuss people living over there in Israel, he may consider them African because it's in Northeast Africa, but people may disagree with that. So instead of going through
all right about that,
right? So what I'm saying is, instead of going back and forth on that disagreement, had Diop say, well, I'm speaking about a group of population that's located in this latitude and longitude, then there's no argument.
Well, I wonder if Diop was alive today and he had the information that we have today, would he say that? See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying
information from the 70s when he didn't have the information to maybe change it. Change it. Because I'm not saying that he did, but the DNA sequencing wasn't there for him to make this analysis.
Yeah, I understand.
We know via DNA that anybody with that particular hair, but those hair follicles or that pigmentation has admixture. I'm pretty sure that he would probably say anywhere.
Well, no. The difference is Diop will still be right in sync with the genetic data. I'm saying how Diop chopped up the world's geography would be different. So because that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying.
The land land mass has changed. At one point, we probably was dominating that area and then got pushed back. So that could have happened at one point in time.
Okay, wait, but hold up. See, now what you just did, you mixed the humans on the land with the land itself. I'm saying that certain people demarcate land masses differently. So some people will consider the cutoff point of Africa at the Suez Canal area, and some people will include the Middle East.
Right.
Irregardless of who's standing on it. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying to eliminate that confusion, if we use longitude and latitude, if it ever came down to it, that would eliminate that. That's all I'm saying. Just like the temperature example I gave you. If we were talking about the weather outside, I say it's cold and you say it's hot, then we're going to argue all day. But if we use an objective way of expressing it, and I say, hey, it's 72 degrees, there's no room for argument because it's precise and it's objective.
Yeah, agreed. I got you.
Yeah, that's all. Now you may think 72 degrees is cold, and I may think 72 degrees is hot. That's a different story, but it's still 72 degrees outside. Whatever. So anyway, so what, you looking for something? Or nah, you got something? Cause we've been on for like 3 hours now.
I got it. Got it right here.
He got something else.
About with skull and.
Are we still live?
Hominids,
gotta make sure we still live, cause I put the link out. I was thinking people would chime in, cause people have a lot to say in the comments, whether it's good or bad. I'm not saying negative.
Yeah, I don't think we live anymore. Somebody said the Facebook was choppy. Let me check.
Okay. So,
anyway,
yeah, Unc, if you
from skull or skull-ass hominids, early modern humans are hominids fossils discovered in caue.
You got shaving? What's this?
Skull caves.
Well, I'm gonna ask, well, John, where are the archaic humans? Where are they indigenous to?
All back then, all the archaic humans that we're talking about, they're indigenous to the continent that we call Africa today.
Okay. Now hold on. Now what happened to them?
They became extinct.
Y'all couldn't
Oh, good.
So how did they come and become extinct? But now we done found out that the Neanderthals ain't extinct.
Wait. Hold up. Wait.
So
the Neanderthals are extinct, man. The Neanderthals are extinct. I don't know where you getting that they're not extinct. The Neanderthals.
Well, hold up. They're not extinct if their DNA still lives within people.
Well, all the previous DNA is found within.
Yeah, I'm saying, but they don't. I'm saying they don't say that like the archaic people are not extinct, or where are they at in the timeline? Are they before Homo sapiens sapiens?
Yeah.
After Homo sapiens sapiens?
No, they're before. They're before.
Okay. So they live within the Homo sapiens sapiens and the Neanderthal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Neanderthal, everybody will tell you, even Savante, was it Pablo, will tell you that the Neanderthal as a species of Homo is extinct today. They're extinct. They're not walking around. But we have some of their genetics in modern man, in modern Homo sapiens sapiens today. But the Neanderthal itself is extinct.
Yeah, I get that. But what I'm saying, they still live through DNA, right? If the DNA is not
but that's true for everybody then. That's true for
right. Well, I mean, whatever they've discovered so far.
Yeah, that's true for all. That's true for all of what our DNA is composed of. Remember, we share 50% DNA with a banana.
They said that Neanderthals was dead too at one point.
No, Neanderthal is extinct. It has been extinct. It's for the past 40,000. 40,000.
Didn't realize that the DNA still live in us, so technically they still.
See, that's not. Yeah, you're not saying that right, Wujawu, because why what Pablo is saying is that DNA lives within all non-Africans. So what is he saying?
Wait a minute. I'm agreeing with. Listen, I'm saying.
I'm trying to make it clear because you saying that I ain't saying that a pure Neanderthal is living, bro. I'm saying that they DNA still lives within all the non-Africans.
And I agree. I agree with that statement.
Okay, yeah, so that's what I'm trying to get clear.
Yes. Let me ask Wuja a question. Hey, Wuja.
Yes.
Are you the sum total of your ancestors?
Of my ancestors, yes.
So then, does humans have Neanderthal as ancestors? Homo sapiens outside of Africa?
Not all.
Some of them, though. No, yes. All the ones that left Africa. Am I correct?
All the ones that left Africa have some degree of Neanderthal genetics, yep.
So like James said, they ain't gone nowhere. They ain't extinct. They right there in white people. Yes, I see. I got you. See, I questioned you up.
See, yeah, that's messed up, bro.
Okay, hold up. Now let me say number one. I said I agree with. Hold up, wait.
No.
Wait, hold up. Let me say what I'm saying. No, it's funny. It's funny. I know it's joking, but listen, James, I agreed from the first time you said it that Neanderthals genes are still present to this very day. But like I said and clarified, that Homo neanderthalis is extinct. You can actually email the guy you keep mentioning. What was the name? Pablo.
Yeah, I know what I'm saying, but we just talking about the genetics. That's all.
Okay, and I agree with that. So there's no problem, no argument. I don't have no disagreement with that at all. But I further qualified that by saying we share 50% DNA with a banana. So human beings and a banana have a common ancestor at some point in the distant past.
I need to cut that out. See, when you start saying stuff like that,
it's true.
That's why I like bananas. Now I know why.
We share DNA with a lot of stuff that you may not.
I know all this, but see, that's what I'm saying. Like when they start saying about the you know, that 2% and then that, you know, 2 to 5% between different species of humans, and then you say you got 2% different between the chimp. That 2% is a lot of percentage.
Yes, because Sister Naya mentioned that human genome consists of what, 3.5 billion nucleotide. What is it?
Yeah, base pairs.
Right. So when we talking percentage, that still can accumulate to a whole lot of genetic material. So you're absolutely right. And plus, it depends on what part that's coded for what, and it could be coded for something that surfaces in morphology or the physical appearance of things that make a big drastic difference. You know, so it all depends because you're dealing with billions of code. You know, billions of it. And you know, so we had mentioned it earlier that what geneticists can determine in the directionality of the migrations and all that through the timeline is because of how these codes are inherited. Some of these codes are inherited in big chunks, and so they know that there's a subset of a larger code when that happens. And anytime you have a subset of a larger code, you know, the larger code is a priority, meaning that it comes before, and that's how they could tell. In as far as timeline wise, which came before the other. And
yeah, they do that. I mean, that machine that they, you know,
y'all cut me off, man.
That machine that they came up with, where you can do the base pairs and all that. That's how they was able to get a clear view of actually what's going on.
Hey James.
So
you actually cut me off in the middle of reading.
Okay.
I wanted to put that skull cave. It's SKHUL skull, and I think it's QAFZEH school and.
Was it a magazine or a link?
Hominids. It's a link. I'll give it to you.
Okay, I was gonna say if you could share you could share it if you want. Share your screen.
Put it in there.
Hope you ain't sharing none of that stuff like young Pharaoh be doing, bro.
Oh no, I ain't doing that. Yeah.
And look, aliens and all that kind of like, yeah, it's an alien in Kemet.
Man, look, hold up, James. Let me make something clear. This is a no pseudo zone, okay? So
I'm just playing with Pharaoh, he's just a kid, so I don't be tripping. You know, I'm cool with everybody, but I'm just saying. I it would be hard for me to believe that that's a half of a body or one and a half of the body.
No, I didn't say that.
I know what I'm saying. That would be something else.
So right here, say the remains exhibit a mix of traits found in archaic and anatomically modern humans. They have been tentatively dated at about 80,000, 120,000 years old using electroparagenetic. Am I saying this right? Paramagnetic renaissance and thermoluminescence dating techniques. The brain case is similar to modern humans, but they possess brow ridges and a projecting facial profile like Neanderthals.
Mm-hmm.
They were initially regarded as transitional from Neanderthals to anatomic modern humans, or as hybrids between Neanderthals and modern humans. It said Neanderthal remains have been found nearby in Kibara cave that to 161,000, 141,000 years. But it has been hypothesized that the school hominids had died out by 80,000 years ago because of drying and cooling conditions, favoring the return of Neanderthal population, suggesting that the two types of hominids never made contact in the region. They say a more recent hypothesis is that skull hominids represent the first exodus of modern humans from Africa around 125,000 years ago, probably via the Sinai Peninsula, and that the robust feature exhibit at skull hominids represent archaic sapiens features rather than Neanderthal features. They say the discovery of modern humans made tools from about 125,000 years ago at Jebel Faya, United Arab Emirates, in the Peninsula.
The math on that is about right too, bro. Because if you look at that map, that's where they say the intermixing took place, right around there.
Okay, so let's establish something, because earlier when you said half and half, you painted a mental picture that the bottom half was something and the top half was something different.
Yeah, hold on, whoa, hey, Wuja, not in this one, but I do got an article where it show I do got that. I'm gonna show you.
I thought you was backing off of that. Come on, bro.
No, I ain't gonna back off on this. I ain't gonna back off that. I don't have
but I'm saying, on what you read though is given more hybrid status to show that it's suspected as a transitional form, and that's kind of
what I thought he was talking about.
What Naya brought up when she said hybrid, as far as the word.
Yeah, see, but that's what they're talking about. What just read, they saying that's where they start seeing the evidence of the intermixing. So what he read was like spot on as far as correct, as far as like what the research is showing.
And this is in Eshkol in Israel. So
pull up that map, Waju. That's right where it's gonna show the mission took place, ain't it?
Oh yeah, they say in a Levant. Some people say Cannon area, Levant area, and
that's where that map shows right where it popped off at. So
yeah,
I would agree with whatever article that was. That's it. That tells you. I mean, but
I'm trying to look at the chat and take some look at these comments stuff. I see somebody is saying what all African Americans have Neanderthal in us.
Yep, that's the funny part about it.
Believe it.
Well, hold up. Let me do this. Hold up. Let me do this, y'all. Let me play this. Let me play this little clip. I'm up to play the audio of it, not the video. Just want to play this real quick. I think I got it at this timestamp. If not, then I'll just stop it. But check this out. This is Dr. Rick Kittles explaining the
Whoa! Hey, before you push that button. Page 33 in New Science. It says Australopithecus Sidaba has a bewildering mix of human and ape-like traits.
Okay.
Bewildering, like damn. Why you got ape and human traits?
Oh, okay.
Why is that?
Yeah, but it does. Okay, that's cool. We just don't know what area of the body I was trying to see. I thought you go pull out.
No, but you know, Australopithecus, it shows right from the waist down. You know, she could walk upright, and up top, you know, she had those ape-like features.
Yeah, you're going back before Homo sapiens, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's important because
you know about that. We're trying to get up out of Africa and find out what's going on with that. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, but hold on, check out this. Okay, I just want to play this clip. It's let me prep it. Hopefully, it's the right timestamp. It's Dr. Rick Kittles explaining the percentage breakdown of African Americans. Okay, now mind you, this is on the macro level of African Americans in the United States. So it may not be true for every single person in the United States, but so he breaks it down. Play it.
Africa and Cameroon about 16%, Ghana about 10%. Now this is not a random sample; these are just people who bought tests. But you know, about 3,000 of them. It just says something about the amount of variation in the African American population. So when we talk about these lineages, these non-African lineages in African Americans, you know how we say we have good hair? I got some Native American ancestry. You guys know what I'm talking about. My mother used to tell me that all the time, back when I had hair. She used to say, yo, I got Native American ancestry on my mama's side, because, you know, all your aunties and I got nice hair. That's what we say. But for the most part, we claim Native American ancestry before we do European ancestry.
Hey, I want to pause it. That's an interesting point he made. Most African Americans who socially call themselves African Americans will claim Native American ancestry before they will claim European ancestry, and he finds that strange because on a biological level, the percentage-wise, most African Americans have much more European ancestry in their admixture than they do Native American, and this is what he's showing. But watch, you're gonna hear him say it.
And Native Americans are more close to Europeans than African. But go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Stories. But anyway, when we look at mitochondrial DNA, we find it only in 3%. Very little Native American ancestry among African Americans on the maternal lineage, and even less on the paternal side. Very little thus far. That's why a gentleman there said you had Native American or something. You have French ancestry. I'm just playing. European ancestry is quite different. Very little maternal European ancestry. That's from women. Extremely large amount for men. In fact, 30%. So in this room.
Hold up, so stop there. Oh, let me finish.
If we were to count out 10 black men, 3 of y'all folks would have a European Y chromosome.
Okay, so that's a very important, well, not important, but that's a very interesting statement that paternally 30% of African Americans in 2015, when he was saying this, has a European Y chromosome, meaning their paternal lineage is not non-African and it would be European. 30% of African Americans, and it's less on the maternal side, which is only 0.5%. So only a half of a percent with their maternal line traced back, which is way bigger than Native American. But yet we have African Americans in this country that will claim Native American ancestry before they will European ancestry. So you can see how genetics and this information changes the ball game. And Naya, I think this kind of, are you still there? This kind of speaks to, you know, the thing that you were saying, that this overall conversation is really coming out of. She still there?
No, it's past her bedtime.
Okay, yeah. So
yeah, you're right about that though.
So that's very interesting. I hope people caught that who are listening. But
listen to what he's saying. He said if he had 10 men in the room, only 3 of them would have European DNA. See, that's what I'm saying. People are trying to say that we all have. They didn't rape everybody, and the commonality of admixture just started shit in our generation since here recently. When we was coming up, like me and there wasn't no admixture. It was already segregated as far as us Like white girls weren't trying to get with us, and really we weren't trying to get with them. I wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as time has gone on, you have.
James, how old are you, James?
I'm 48.
So as time goes on, and the laws have changed, the social environments have changed, where it's fashionable to, you got interracial, this and that and stuff like that. So the times have definitely changed. But what we had to make it clear that what he's talking about is paternal and maternal lineages. So your Y DNA will trace back to a non-African source, or your maternal mitochondria will trace back to a non-African source. So that's what he's comparing, and he's saying that it's far, far less Native American results than they are European. It's much greater.
Right. Yeah, I know what he's comparing, but I also am trying to make, because I think what Unc was saying that he wasn't necessarily saying we all have, but he was saying African Americans have European DNA, but I was saying that that's not necessarily the case based on, and then he just verified and said that only 30% of us do.
Yeah,
see, we came from a different route. We came straight from Africa. And then when they do that test now, and they said that there's no Neanderthal DNA on the continent, that means we came off of the continent from another route, right?
Well, that's what I was saying. That's why I said if most, even African Americans, when they get their DNA analyzed, they have a small percentage of Neanderthal, which means they're not inclusive. There's some mixing down in the line somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That you inherited. It's not a direct thing, but you inherit it. Because remember, there's 3 different tests. That's what people understand. You have your paternal line that's tested, your maternal line, and then you have your admixture or ancestral composition. Those are 3 different things. So what I just played was him talking about the maternal and paternal lineage, not the percentage stuff.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you hear what 42 Tribe say? 42 Tribe says, I have a video called Black Neanderthals, a Eurocentric and Eurocentrism. It said it breaks down the study by the pigment gene. Breaks down the study by the pigment genes. Pigment genes. It said Neanderthals and Denisovans tested so far were black. They had the same pigment genes.
Are you saying pigment? Are you saying pigment gene?
Yeah, some of their skin.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Facebook live part went off, so we just on YouTube.
I'm on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I was checking both of them. All right, so I don't know if y'all want to wrap it up because man, it's 2:38.
We can pretty much wrap it up. But it was a good build. I mean, I appreciate y'all letting me on. I'm just interested in that topic though. But I think we got a lot of clarity. And hopefully, it seemed like we got. So whoever was listening, it seemed like they could have learned something out of it.
Yeah. I'm anxious to wait for you to get your DNA analyzed, James.
I'm on that, but hold up, check this out. See, this is where y'all get, man. I'm not. See, since I'm not accepting no slave or rape blood, bro. I'm not accepting that. If my ancestors got raped, and that's how this DNA, man, you don't have to accept it, especially after the way I've been treated in this country for the last 48 years, man. They treat me like an African. I'm going to embrace it and accept it, and it is what it is. I mean, and I don't think this DNA stuff, I mean, it's not as serious as a lot of people like, I'm trying to be racist about it. I mean, race exists. We see this in this country and what's going on, man. So it ain't no need to try to dodge it. I think it's really interesting about it because it can kind of give us a heads up on some of the stuff that we've been out here saying that I thought was kind of like misinformation. Because the other show I got on, when I was saying now that we have this DNA information, we can stop saying that we all the same. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but see, even when you say that, it just depends on what level of the context, because on the macro broad. No, I'm saying on a broader macro level, on a macro size or scale, all living human beings are the same in the sense that we're all Homo sapiens sapiens. So that's it. But once you start going down into more of the details and the more micro levels and discussing that, then we can start pointing out differences. And one of the easiest differences to point out is the lineages. And you have non-African versus African lineages. And that's what I showed on the map. I showed where if you belong to a haplogroup such and such that has occurred outside of Africa, then guess what? You could be classified as non-African in that context. And so we can start doing that.
Yeah.
Where them hoodies at, man?
I got them. I mean, just let me know. But yeah, I want, before I lose my point on that.
I mean, you got them.
I mean, you ain't never. I sent you my phone number. You didn't even ever respond to that unless your messages is off.
Where you send the phone number, yo?
The day we got off on the show the other day, bro. I sent it to you.
You sent it where? Through what?
Facebook Messenger. I don't have your phone number, nothing like that. The only thing I saw I can get in contact with.
Facebook Messenger.
Oh, hey, just real quick. 42 Tribes made a statement that said all humans have Neanderthal. We barely separate from them, but yesterday. See, we have to qualify statements like that because when we say all humans have Neanderthal, that's not true as a blanket statement, because we have people who are on the continent of Africa that don't have that Neanderthal. But then it goes back to the confusion when we say things like Homo sapiens sapiens share 99.7% DNA with Neanderthal. That's a different statement. That's a different thing. So
some people are not understanding the kind of like what I'm, because I've been trying to have this conversation for a minute. So that's why every time I can see somebody talk, I listen and I try to pay attention, because I want to see where they're at with the information that's out now. As opposed, because see, when I first got on the show, I said, "What do y'all think?" As opposed to the old out of Africa, y'all was like, "What is he talking about?" I was talking about the DNA evidence that they got now, as opposed to just hypothesizing that that's what happened.
But let me ask you. Yeah, but and when you said that night, I was trying to point you to the Out of Africa 2, because Out of Africa 2, it incorporates all this DNA stuff we're talking about. Everything, all the recent stuff, everything's from 2003, from 2010 with the Planck Institute, from 2015, all that.
Right.
Yeah. So remember, you got two Out of Africa theories, part 1 and 2.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, there's still no actual link to show what you call it, the archaic link. That's what I would like to see, if they could ever come up with that, because I like to have all the documentation. I don't like to have stuff missed.
Well, look into what is it A00 or A0?
A00.
Okay.
Look into the.
Where you find that? If somebody send me a link to, what is that gonna be? That's gonna show the link between the two.
No, it's gonna show you that A00 goes back. It's like the oldest paternal line.
Oh, I don't need that link, and I already know about that.
Okay, but I'm saying it will lead you to the discussion on the archaic human, the archaic humans and stuff. It will lead you into that.
Well, all right, bro. I'm gonna let y'all get off of me. I gotta get up and
Hey, yo, where you saying them at though, bro? Which one?
So your name,
hey, y'all,
you might got two accounts or something like that.
Okay, let me just close. Let me just close this out, and then y'all keep on talking. Let me just close out from us on the air right. First, and so yeah.
West, yo.
Man. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna say peace to everybody who tuned in. We did a bit of simulcasting tonight, a little bit both on YouTube and Facebook. I think the Facebook went out. I mean, it ended first, but we're still on YouTube. But anyway, y'all can see it where y'all saw it, and so we're gonna keep this up. It's a new channel. Make sure you spread the word. pass out the link.
Get a link because I don't know what. Could you get a link address on there? I mean, put that in there because I've been looking for the channel.
Yeah. We're gonna put it out. We put out already, but we're gonna keep it up. So make sure people subscribe and hit the bell so you can get notified when we are live. Because when we do it this way, it's not through Google Hangout per se, where it's pre-planned, scheduled and stuff like that. So we will make announcements ahead of time. So yeah, Unc, you got something to close out with?
Yeah, where is the YouTube? What's the YouTube link? What's the name of that?
Yeah, it's Amara Squad Media. So the channel name is Amara Squad Media.
Yeah, got Amara Squad Media and RBA Returns.
Okay, yeah, because nobody knows that. I mean, I look for the Amara Squad page, it's gone. Yeah, so I was like, what the world is going on? You know, but,
hey,
we
just
still live, Uja?
Yeah, we're still live. But hold up, 42 Tribes is saying, 42 Tribes, let me just read his statement. He said, Africans have always had Neanderthal DNA. We all are 99% Neanderthal in the same way that we are 90% goat. So 42 Tribes, I'm not disagreeing with you, but we have to keep it in the context. There's two different contexts going on. And matter of fact, it's actually 99.7% Neanderthal. That's what we share. But when people talk about you only having 2% or 4% Neanderthal, that is based on a different criteria. So we have to be clear on that. We have to be clear.
I read the article told what it was. Remember I was reading it?
Yeah, I'm just saying for people who may be watching or checking out the chat. All right, so anyway, so we're gonna close this out, and I was trying to see anybody had any closer. Nahisi, you still there? I don't know. Nahisi be the silent person be sitting in the cut.
Yeah. Hey James.
Yeah.
You got my Unc West page, bro?
Yeah, I think that's the page I sent it to. I'm gonna look again.
You must have sent it to Robert West, yo.
Yeah, that's the page I sent it to.
Yeah, I can't even get into that right now, yo. Just send it to Unc West.